Hi, I'm Brian Sullivan, the Chair of the Harwich Board of Appeals. I'd like to welcome everyone to the meeting of the Harwich Board of Appeals on this date, September 27th. The purpose of this meeting is to hear and decide applications before the Board of Appeals which have been brought pursuant to the bylaw of the Town of Harwich and the Massachusetts Zoning Enabling Act. As required by law, the town may audio or video record this meeting, which we are. Any person intending to either audio or video record this open session is required to inform the chair. During this meeting, the chair will recognize promptly a member of the board, the secretary, and attorneys presenting a case to inform the chair if a protocol is not being followed. While in open session, those wishing to present comments or ask questions regarding a case are requested to fill out an information form on the podium. So if you're going to ask a question, you need to go to the podium, identify yourselves, and we just ask you to fill out some brief information identifying yourself for the record. I'd like to have each board member identify themselves.
Kenneth Dixon.
Chris Murphy.
Alexander Donahue.
Brian Sullivan.
Dave Ryer.
Dave Nunley.
John August.
Okay, so the chair, with the clerk, would you call the first case?
All right, case number 2023-27. Vincent P. Helfrich and Jean M. Helfrich, trustees for the Jean M. Helfrich Trust, through their attorney, Andrew Singer. The owner of the property is, the owner of the property, which is located 33 Snowing Road, assesses map 8, parcel P3 in the RL zoning district. The applicant seeks a special permit to renovate and construct a new two-story addition onto the pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling pursuant to the Harwich zoning bylaws 32554, Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 6.
By the way, I just silenced my cell phone. I request everybody do the same. I was at a meeting earlier this afternoon, and my phone went off, and I was a little rather embarrassed. Okay. I'd like to comment the fact that the health department indicated no concerns with the project, as the plans do not show an increase in bedrooms, and all setbacks to septics are being maintained. There was also a letter received in documentation late this afternoon by the owners of 29 Snowin Road, in a butter, requesting the board delay approval of this meeting, and will, of course, that person is also going to be speaking tonight as well. Voting on this meeting tonight, on this case, will be Al Donahue, myself, David Nunley, Chris Murphy, and David Ryer. And I'd like to have the applicant introduce themselves and their representative.
Thank you. Good evening. For the record, my name is Andrew Singer, attorney in Dennisport, here on behalf of the applicant. With me in the audience is Vincent Helfrich, who is one of the owners, and Brad Malo, who is from Coastal Engineering, one of the project architects. What I'd like to do is go through the application, the summary of reasoning that I submitted to you. Mr. Sullivan gave me a copy of Ms. Wheeler's letter just a couple minutes ago, so I read it quickly. I have not had a chance to say hello or anything to Ms. Wheeler, but I will address it since it is part of the record. This property has been before the board numerous times over the years, but it has not been now for, could be close to a decade. We've been back for permits for everything that's been done on the property. The request now, what they'd like to do, as you can see on the plans, is to build an addition which will allow them to refigure the kitchen and first floor area at the southwest corner of the house. This is an addition which won't be very visible from the street because of the front structure that's between it and the street. As far as setbacks, it is not creating any new setbacks. It's not eliminating any as well, but it is not creating any new ones. It would be a two-story addition. As the chair read, Health Department had no concerns, have been to the Conservation Commission, they have approved the project as shown on the plans, and obviously, we need review and approval from this board as well. The reason why we need the approval, as you can tell certainly from looking at the plan, the lot is undersized, and the structure is, you have sort of jagged property lines as things jog in the back. And the house is very close in some places to property lines on both sides, north and south. The south portion of the south abutter is the Wheeler property. The Wheelers have access to their property via an easement that is, at this point, on the south side, all of the south side, as you can see on the plan, of the Helfrich property. That is a copy of what Ms. Wheeler gave to you. The additions that have done, I just want to be very clear because of a comment that was made in the letter. The additions that have been done over the years, Mr. Helfrich had spoken with Ms. Wheeler's parents, who are the owners of the property. They had been okay with the proposals. There were no appeals. They supported them at some point. And also, there was another easement for the retaining wall and some that you can see on the property. So everything that was done on the property in the past has been done with permits, with permission of the Wheelers. And again, I'm saying this since I have not had a chance to speak to Ms. Wheeler. I don't know who she is, but I hope to have that opportunity. But I just wanted to address that since it was in the letter. So everything that was done appropriately, did not encroach on their easement at all. There has been discussion, as she noted, about if you went out there, the driveway on the south side of the property goes in and stops. The rest is grass.
Talk for 1 second. I'm a little confused on that easement, where it is.
Sure.
Okay. Oh, right here.
Well, right now, it's this entire thing. It goes back to there, comes in, you see those dotted lines? So this whole thing is the easement.
All right,
Takes up the entire south part of the property.
everybody understand that one?
Right, and where is the swimming pool? Somebody saying, where's the swimming pool that they're talking about?
The swimming pool is, right here.
Not sure I get it. Okay.
So-
Oh, I see it now,
Yeah.
okay. This is a very hard to read plan.
Yeah, swimming pool is right there.
Okay.
Right.
How about coming down here and showing us as well?
So,
That's your choice.
So the easement comes in here, you see the dotted line, so it's this whole area, this is all grass, but this,
Okay.
but it's
This
this
is
whole
how the
thing.
what was the issue? Because I didn't get a
Well,
chance to
the
read that
driveway's
thing
only
through.
right
What's
here
the
in
issue with the swimming pool?
Okay.
This swimming pool's right here,
She's claiming it,
that she asked about, or mentioned. Okay, you see it, yes.
The swimming pool is.
Thank you.
that's what she's claiming.
Okay, all right, but that isn't, okay.
Could I make one clarification?
Sure.
Just one clarification
Sure.
before we go in. On the application, the frontage, there's a typo on existing.
On the plan or in the presentation?
The little table there, it
On the
says
application?
6,354 feet of frontage, which actually is 63.54 feet.
Added
So
a
I
few
just-
zeros in there, sorry about that.
Noted, yeah.
Yeah, no, the frontage is, there's not a lot of frontage,
No,
I
no,
mean, it is
but
what it is, but
Plan shows 63.54.
that is correct.
Just a typo.
That is correct, I apologize for
Well,
that.
good pickup.
That would be the biggest lot in town, if it was what I wrote.
See, I read these things.
That is good. So what we have, obviously, as I said, is non-conforming lot, non-conforming frontage. We have, the structure is non-conforming to side and rear yards. It's conforming to the front. It's well off Snow Inn Road. Building coverage is non-conforming, as is site coverage. Now, the site coverage number looks, well, it is, it's big. And the reason why it's big is that the town of Harwich counts all designated parking areas as site coverage, whether they're used or not used, whether they're paved, grass, gravel, or whatnot. So the easement that I showed you on the plans, most of which is grass, and it's a walkway that the Wheelers use, and there's a portion that's parked on, all of that is in that site coverage number. So the site coverage number looks very large, but on the ground, it isn't. It's, physically appearing like that. But technically, for calculation purposes, it is, and that's why I noted it as such in the application. So we have non-conforming conditions. Under the zoning bylaw, 32554, we are asking for a special permit, which you have the discretion to review and grant with or without conditions, to alter, change, or extend a pre-existing non-conforming structure. You need to find that the proposal, what's before you, is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing conditions. And we respectfully submit that the proposal will not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. Specifically, what I came in here originally with was the addition to the house. But I would also like to say that we also believe respectfully that it won't be substantially detrimental to any of the Wheelers' property or the Wheelers' rights or any of the relationship between the two parties. It's a close neighborhood, as you said, that right area is very close between the houses. The parties have up until now had a very good relationship, and nothing is being proposed with this addition that would threaten or jeopardize the Wheelers' property at all. And just to follow up on a concern that Ms. Wheeler mentioned, if they were concerned about the retaining wall, Coastal Engineering, who's here, designed that wall. It was done, as I said, with permits and with the agreement of the parties many, many years ago. Naturally, any activity that the Helfriches conduct would have to not damage or harm any other property, and certainly you could even add something about that into a decision as well if you so choose. Looking at the substantial detriment test of the bylaw, there's going to be no change in the single-family use of the property. There's going to be no change in the number of bedrooms on the property. The front and left side setbacks of the addition will be conforming, and the right and rear side setbacks will be no closer to the pre-existing non-conforming property lines than existing. The proposed increase in the non-conforming building coverage is only 363 square feet. So it goes from 21.7% to 24.6%. So it's going up, but only by 363 square feet. Respectfully submit that that is not substantially more detrimental. We don't think it's detrimental, but even if you thought it was detrimental, we don't believe it rises to the legal standard of substantially detrimental, which is what the bylaw and Chapter 40A requires. Similarly, the increase in the building coverage, again, it's only by 92 square feet because it's how we're measuring parking and grass and everything under the bylaw. And we submit that that, respectfully, is also not going to be substantially more non-conforming. As was referenced in the letter, if the parties ultimately agree to a revision of the easement at all, then site coverage will go down because what's treated as a parking easement would no longer be. But that's a separate issue. I'm not presenting it to you. I'm not presupposing anything. But that is just something that's why we have the numbers we have. The building height's going to match existing. It's conforming. If you when you look at the elevations, it's just making the front of the house a little bit longer, from the street side, again, behind the existing front structure. And it's very complementary to the existing structure, the proposal that the architect has designed. We don't think there's going to be any negative impact to the neighborhood at all. As I mentioned, the Conservation Commission has approved the project. The septic system there's no problem. There's going to be no negative impact to water supply or drainage. There'll be no increase of congestion in the public ways. There'll be no decrease in traffic safety. And we don't believe that the proposal will adversely affect the public health, safety, convenience, or general welfare of the town, nor any other adjacent properties. For those reasons, and I'm sure we're going to have a discussion, but the applicants will respectfully request that you make findings that the proposal will not be substantially more detrimental than what exists on the ground today, and ultimately grant a special permit allowing the proposal. And any of the three of us would be happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. So, okay, the retaining wall, and I apologize that sometimes with these smaller maps, it's really hard to.
We actually, we have a full size. Sorry, I should have thought of that.
Sure, can you just point out the retaining, you do from the, so everybody can see it at the desk here.
All right, so this is Snow Inn Road.
Right.
This is the addition right here. The Wheelers, this is the Wheelers' property. Their house is approximately here. The retaining wall is right there, and you can see it's on the Wheelers' property. It was there by way of easement, so it's lawful.
So it's their easement to 33 or 31?
It's in 33 has the benefit of that easement over the small portion of 29, correct, for the retaining wall.
Okay, all right, and it's your 33's responsibility to maintain it.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
they designed it and they,
So the wall just goes, that,
So,
you need to, thank you, I appreciate it, sir.
Thank you. My name's Vin Helfrich. So previously, there was a retaining wall on that property, and the retaining wall failed. It was a old cinder block foundation, you know, cinder block set on sand.
Sure.
So we had coastal engineering design a retaining wall that would protect our property and the Wheelers' property. So that retaining wall is 8 feet deep. It's, you know, 2 feet wide at the base, plus the footing of 4 feet. It's reinforced concrete with a lot of rebar. When I talked to Batson Mercy Wheeler at the time, it was at our expense to replace their retaining wall because it was in the best interest of both properties. And I wanted to make sure that we did it properly. Batson Mercy have been like parents to me my entire life. I mean, been here for close to 30 years now. When we put that retaining wall in, it was as much to protect their property as our own property.
Okay, all right, thank you, appreciate that. So, I'm just gonna, before I pass on to the board members and then, I have a few questions. So, if I read this plan right, we have, actually, the house we're talking about's got a house number on it of 31. And then 33 is in the front, okay? So the applicant, so I just, you know, I spent a lot of time down there, but so house 33 is the front, and that number, 31's in the, are they numbered incorrectly? I just,
I've been talking to this town for a long time about that. It's 31, 33. I don't know why it has two numbers. But I think the front one is 33, the rear property is 31. And it's all one lot.
right, so this is all one lot, which you have two single-family homes on one lot, which got approved whenever, okay?
it's one map and parcel number with
It's one parcel with two single-family
map
houses
8
on it.
parcel P3.
Okay. That took me a while to figure out when I was down there.
Sorry about that, too.
And I was looking at the front of house at 33, saying, okay, I can't make this one out at all. Then I walked back and found 31 and realized what we were there to approve. Okay. All right. Thank you for that clarification. Just a couple of, what is the expected time frame for construction?
Join me here.
So the game plan is, if we get approval, would be to start a year from now. After the summer season, it would take approximately 4 months to do. So it would be done before the summertime. We'd start in September and have everything done. And of course, we'll be very respectful to the Wheelers' property and make sure that we don't encroach on that during construction. But that's pretty much the time frame.
And anticipation of construction vehicles being maintained on the property?
So the construction vehicles will come in through my existing driveway. It won't go through the easement on the Wheeler side. But they'll leave every night.
Yeah, will they be,
So it'll be parked off-street.
they're gonna be parked?
Oh, yeah, they'll be off-street.
They'll be
yes.
parked off-street? not
Yes,
on-street.
exactly.
Besides the Wheelers, in their letter, did you discuss this project with any other neighbors? Any butters that, just wondering?
Well, I mean,
I think we had a.
I talked to the property is now owned by the Wheeler's daughters. I talked to Mercy Wheeler, who owned the property. I think she has a life estate there, or, this summer, I mean, we talked about it extensively. I showed her the plans, and she said, Vinnie, I would never oppose anything that you ever done here. You've always been a great neighbor. We've got along good together. I have reached out to the Wheeler daughters and tried to explain to them what we're trying to do, and that I would never be disrespectful to their family or their mother. Whatever we do here, I'm gonna make sure that it works for both families.
Okay.
I think one of the questions that Polly, one of the daughters, had was, how about the privacy of, between the two properties. You're getting 15 feet closer. Well, we can put up, more privacy between the two properties. We've both been very respectful about that. Our decks almost touch each other as it is now, and when the Wheelers are out there enjoying themselves and we're out there, we can hear each other's conversations, and sometimes we joke back and forth. We can put some more privacy between us, whether it's some, plantings or some more lattice, but we will definitely be very respectful of that.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. The, looking at the plan, the second floor has a balcony, which I only see the setback on that is at 18 feet. But of course, I know you're allowed to have a 2 feet overhang on a second floor situation. But I don't see a setback reference for the actual, first floor of the structure.
It's 2 feet, I think the balcony there's 2 feet?
Yes.
It's 20. It's 2 feet right there.
The balcony's more aesthetic.
Well, I realize, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
Would you like to join your attorney at the table, please? Thank you. It would make,
I invited him once, but.
well, I don't want to get between your relationship. I mean, I don't know. All right,
Yes,
so-
the balcony's more aesthetic.
Right, but, so anyways, I'm assuming, I took out an architect's rule or whatever, a design rule, and I looked at a full plan actually earlier, but it looked like it was just under 2 feet. So the foundation is at, or the first floor is at 20 feet?
Exactly.
Correct.
All right, so the, and I guess one thing I was confused about in looking at everything is how site coverage, which I mean, I'm sorry, building coverage is only up 3%. I guess that square footage that's occupying is only 3% of the whole property site then.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's gonna be 20 feet, all right? And the height of it, you got at 30 feet. Is that average height at 30, or is that the top height is at 30 feet? Are we averaging heights here?
Well, the height of nothing changes.
It's matching existing.
Matching existing.
Right, I
exactly.
just didn't know if the existing was an average height, where you can have one part's at 28, the other one's at 34, and you're matching 30. I mean, I wanna know that it's still, that height is still, below 30 feet for that addition.
Yes, it is.
Yes, because that is the tallest part, where it's matching is the tallest part of the house, the part behind it.
Yeah, I just didn't know what that height is, though, behind it, if it is 30 feet, or if the 30-foot rule here is on an averaging, and this addition is over 30 feet.
No.
Okay, that's all I just
No,
wanted.
oh, yeah, no,
Okay,
it's
all right,
conforming.
Okay, it's under 30 feet. And how are you handling additional runoff of water on this addition and also the rest of the property?
So when Coastal designed this to begin with, they put in a dry well to take care of the runoff, and they've checked the calculations on it for the additional runoff, and it's still within boundaries of what we need to do.
All right, so all water is gonna be retained and taken care of runoff.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right, Ken?
No, no questions.
Just to be clear, so the proposed addition is basically going on the footprint of the existing paver patio?
Exactly. So we're basically taking up where the patio is, and that's where the addition's going.
Right. And the distance will be 18 feet from the property line?
20 feet from the foundation, and then the 18 feet is where the hangover is for the balcony.
Okay, so 20 feet from the foundation. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I have no questions.
I have no questions.
Dave?
Yeah, I have no questions. I've got a comment, but we'll do it when we have a board discussion.
Okay.
No questions.
No questions.
Okay. It's, so I'd like now open up for open discussion. And, yeah, any further comments from the applicant? Just one.
I'd just like to say, we've been here for close to 30 years now. That We're planting ourselves here. We're going to retire here. We're going to be buried here. This is where we're staying. We're not looking for extra bedrooms. We need a little more space. Part of the plan is to put an elevator in there. 2 years ago, my wife had open heart surgery. Stairs are an issue now. We want to stay here. We want to enjoy it. We want to enjoy our grandchildren here.
Okay.
We want to finish our time here.
Okay. All right, public, I'd like to open up the public meeting portion. And is there anyone here today that'd like to speak regarding this case? Mrs. Wheeler, is this fine? Please come to the podium, please. Good evening.
Sign in? Yeah. I'll put my email address later. I'd like to read part of the letter that my sister wrote, just because I live here in Harwich.
Could you speak just a little louder, please?
Oh, sorry.
Thanks.
Is
And
that
tell us
better?
who you are and where
Okay.
you live.
My name is Emily Wheeler. I'm one of the 3 owners, along with my 2 sisters, of the house at 29. I live on Hillcrest Drive in Harwich. Since recently, I moved there a few years ago. I spent my summers in this house. We rented it for the month of July and came down and lived here in August. We believe, we got a letter in August from Attorney Springer about the easement issue, and it's been a little confusing to us. And when we saw that the meeting was being held for the permit, we really thought that we wanted to make our point of view heard. And you might not agree, but I'd like to read the letter, okay? As I said, I'm one of the 3 owners of this property, and we believe that it would be adversely impacted by the proposed renovation and construction. And my sisters all agree. I'm speaking for them. They do not live here. Aside from encroachment of an easement, which is detailed below, we're concerned that the proposed addition is to be built on property that's supported by a large retaining wall that borders our property. Should anything happen to affect the integrity of that wall, our property would be irreparably damaged. It's also not clear that the proposed addition adheres to the 22-foot required offsets. And finally, we're concerned that the proposed building and site coverage exceed requirements. We recognize that the lot and the home is non-conforming, but exceeding normal requirements so significantly seems to us inconsistent with good planning and wise land use. Regarding the easement, in 1997, our father purchased the easement from the person who owned the property then to ensure driveway access to our cottage at 29 Snowen Road. I'm not surprised that the maps were confusing. It's been confusing all along. He paid $15,000 for that access and thereby bought a perpetual easement. The Helfriches subsequently purchased and modeled the properties at 31 and 33 Stone Road, excuse me, and added on the in-ground pool. I'm sure that Vinny and my father had a good relationship. My father is no longer alive. He died 4 years ago. I'm sure that I know that they had a good relationship, and I believe that they talked about it, but there's nothing in writing. And so we're left to try to make sense of this. So unbeknownst to us, the 2010, 2011 renovations and pool build significantly encroached on our easement. And as I said, on August 8th, Attorney Springer wrote to our attorney providing a copy of the proposed easement and explaining that The Wheelers have an easement for the driveway and the yard over a portion of the Helfrich land. The Helfriches are proposing to revise the easement to better reflect the situation on the ground. We were a little confused about that. The situation on the ground seems to be a product of ignoring the existing easement during the 2010-2011 renovations and pool build, and their desire to use some of our existing driveway access to offset their proposed site coverage on this addition. The proposed easement seems to reduce the total size of the easement and adjust its boundaries. Of note, a concrete slab with pool equipment and a stockade fence are now located on property formerly part of the easement, thus taking possession of 160 feet that was originally ours. Furthermore, our driveway is narrowed significantly. It was originally 22 feet at the bottom. It's now 17. My sister says .43. I'm not sure what that means in inches. And 21.24 at the top. It's now it's 16.73. Additionally, the proposed easement relocates our existing parking area much closer to Snow Inn Road, materially changing our access to our home. This is a very thin driveway. We can only park one car behind another. 3 cars in total if we use the grassy area, which we always have. But there's not room at this point to put 2 cars side by side. We haven't agreed to these proposed easement modifications, and yet the proposed site plan includes them all. It appears to include 423 square feet of our existing driveway to offset the existing site coverage. The summary of reasoning narrative, number 5, says that the proposed increase in non-conforming site coverage from 54.2 to 54.9 will not be substantially more non-conforming, and site coverage should decrease in the future with desired redesign and reduction of the site driveways. I guess we would have thought that that would have been dealt with already. We haven't agreed to these, and we take issue with the fact that the renovations done in 2010 and 11 ignored this and placed permanent structures on the easement. We also take issue with how site coverage was calculated, as it appears to include the existing walkway and the porch, and may include the 423 square feet included in the portion of the existing shell driveway, quote, to be removed for purposes of calculating the proposed site coverage. Again, this calculation assumes that we agreed to the proposed easement modification, and we have not. So we are respectfully requesting that the Board of Appeals delay issuing a decision on the special permit application for the reasons laid out above. Any questions?
Actually,
Yes.
You mentioned, all right, I got a couple, but the proposed addition adheres to the 22-foot required offset. I mean, I think you're referring to the 20-foot, correct? In your in the first page, what is the 22 feet referring to? On the second paragraph, near the end. It is not clear that the proposed addition adheres to the 22-foot required offsets. I think you're referring to the 20-foot setback?
Yes,
Okay, all right, thank you. I just want to know if there's another,
yes. Sorry.
something I wasn't quite clear of.
We did talk at length with lawyers. We decided that I wouldn't come with a lawyer. The letter has been read by several people.
And it is you're stating here that regarding the amenities of the pool, whether it's a pool deck and so forth, is encroaching on the easement?
We believe so. The pool house, I'm not sure about the deck. It doesn't,
All right, so you feel the pool house is on your easement?
yes.
Okay, all right.
And that may have been something that my father agreed to. He had a very good relationship with Vin. I'm not contesting that. But he was a lawyer, and he would have put things in writing, it seems to me. But he did not.
All right, thank you. And, While Mrs. Wheeler is here, didn't you have, anybody else have any questions for her?
No?
Thank you. Yeah, Attorney Singer.
Yes, just wanted to clarify a couple points, just for Ms. Wheeler as well. The site coverage calculation, we didn't presuppose anything. I noted a possibility. But I just wanted everyone to know that that whole easement that I outlined to you, the entire easement that they have right now is in the site coverage. Nothing was taken out. So the entire area is in it. Nothing was discounted out of the site coverage calculation. I just wanted to be clear about that. And the area that I believe Ms. Wheeler is talking about, it's labeled on the plan, it says concrete slab with pool equipment. And a little bit of that is in the easement area, and a little bit of it is outside the easement area. That's the area that I believe you're referring to when you said the pool house. I just wanted to point that out on the plan.
I'm assuming this little thing right here.
So the pool house, you're saying is, the structure that's above ground is not on the easement?
That's what he's talking about. Not that, but you can see it.
And I don't even see the pool house noted here, so.
Yeah, there is, I think Ms. Wheeler is talking about the pool equipment.
Yeah, it's not a pool house, it's a
Yeah.
concrete pad.
Right.
Pad.
Right, okay, so I thought, I didn't see any additional house
Right.
down here.
No,
Okay.
no.
But it's, yeah. So, to Emily's point, when we made these changes back in 2011, I talked with Mr. Wheeler, and, we came before the boards and said, this is what we're gonna do, and I said, do you have any objection to this? And he said, no, I don't, and he didn't object, and we got approval, and, we went by the approval, we went through the whole process. But what Emily has mentioned is that, they can't park 3 cars there because it's too narrow. Well, the original easement that Mr. Wheeler bought from the Lees has parking for 2 cars and 2 cars only. They're allowed 2 cars on that easement. Now, over the last 25 years, we don't care if they have 10 cars there. If they fit there, they fit there. Even now, if they can fit 10 cars, I couldn't care less. The easement is for 2 cars.
That's what it stated on the easement agreement, correct?
Exactly, and if they need extra parking, Mercy always calls me and said, Vinnie, can we park on your lawn? And I say, yes, you can. So, regardless of what the original easement says, we're giving them everything that was in the original easement and then some. The only thing that we're trying to do with the letter from Mr. Singer, from Attorney Singer, is let's adjust the easement to represent what it is now. Your father said that we could do this. He didn't, obviously, we got it because he didn't, oppose it. Now, I want to give the Wheelers access to their property per their original easement. This is a different issue, but they're still going to have 2 cars and access to their property. None of that goes away. The easement area is just for access to their property and 2 cars. That doesn't mean they can take any part of my property. In fact, where the easement is my property. When I bought the house when I was a young man, I met Mr. Wheeler and I said, I feel so bad that somebody charged you for this easement because I would have just given it to you. This is you have a right to get to your property. And I still feel that way, regardless of if the daughters don't agree with what I'm doing here. I believe that all the things that they have rights to, we're going to abide by. I would never not do that.
Sir, the date that you added the pool in the pool patio, which you mentioned, and part of it is on the easement, was that over 10 years ago? What was the date of that?
Oh, yeah, it's
Well,
probably
10
13 years ago, 14 years ago.
Okay.
But so
And
there used to be a circular driveway.
Yep.
Well, that went away when we put the pool in.
Okay.
But they still had the easement to their property with 2 parking spaces.
And I'm assuming you got proper permitting from the town to do the construction you did?
Exactly.
Okay, just want to ask that question. It was over 10 years ago. All right.
Exactly, and they still have the 2 cars and the access to their property. In fact, the access is better now because they can pull straight up to the property. We maintain the driveway, we maintain, all of that property, and I always will.
Mr. Buell, do you have any other comments or?
No,
Okay.
I've said what I have to say.
Is there anyone else here tonight that'd like to speak regarding this case? Okay.
I'll
move to close the public hearing, seeing no one else that wants to speak.
I'll second that.
All right,
Aye.
who seconded?
I did.
Ken? And all approved, right?
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
unanimous. Okay, I'm gonna entertain discussion by board members regarding this case.
I think the application meets the requirements of the bylaw and the Gale and Deirdre cases. It will intensify one or more existing nonconformities, but will not create any new nonconformity. And it's, in my opinion, not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing structures. It's not our place as the Board of Appeals to get into the easement
correct.
issue. That's between the owners of 29 and the owners of
30, 33,
this property,
31.
3133. I do think, though, if the board sees fit to grant a special permit, we should add an additional condition in addition to the construction time, parking on site. I think, and I'll give this to the clerk in a minute, the additional condition would be, and here it is, the board, by granting this special permit, is not approving any possible violation or infringement of the easement rights of the owner of 29 Snow Inn Road, Harwich, Mass. And that's just to not anyone claim, but because we approve this project, we approve whatever the easement situation is. We don't really know what the easement situation is on the ground, other than the
Can you read that one more
testimony
time
we
again?
heard. Well, here, I'm gonna give that to Al. Just so that no one can say the board approved this, and therefore the easements are set as shown on the plan. This might or might not reflect the easement agreements.
Okay.
That's up to them to sort out if they see fit. With regard to the retaining wall, again, yeah, a lot of things can happen, but the board does not take precautionary measures unless there's an obvious unsafe condition or construction hazard. I think once again here, if the work results in some kind of a problem with the retaining wall, the owners of 29 will have legal remedies available to them if and when something happens.
Sure, okay.
That's all I have.
Any other comments, anybody?
No.
The only other suggestion, if we went forward with an approval tonight, from me would be just to indicate that all runoff water of the structures and amenities of the property are to be maintained on site. Okay. All right,
Why don't you give that to Al, so he
Okay.
can have it as another
All right.
condition. Thanks.
okay.
All right, case
All right.
number,
Well, I just want to gonna entertain a motion to, do you have any further discussion? Okay. I can entertain a motion to close discussion.
So moved?
Okay,
second.
second by Al. All right, vote to close discussion?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Closed discussion by the board.
by the board, right, okay. And Chair asks for a motion on the case from the clerk, from Al.
Case number 2023-27, Vincent P. Helfrich and Jenny Helfrich, trustees for the Jenny M. Helfrich Trust, have been granted a special permit by the board, the case having found that the applicant meets the requirements of the bylaw and Gale Dietrich cases. It is proposed a project will intensify one or more existing nonconformities and will not create any new nonconformities and will not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than existing structures. All the work shall be performed in accordance with the plans submitted with this application. The special permit is granted, subject to the following conditions. There will be no demolition, exterior construction, or new landscaping during the period from 30 June to Labor Day in any year. During the life of the project, all construction vehicles shall be parked on the property and not in any public street or road. Further, the board, by granting the special permit, is not approving any possible violation or infringement of the easement rights of the owner of 29 Snow Inn Road, Harwich, Mass.
And runoff.
Oh, yes, there will be sufficient attention to the current runoff, and the property owner indicates it has a well in which it will be taken off the surface. All right, it is a condition of this approval that a violation of the terms and conditions of the special permit may be enforced as a violation of the Howard zoning bylaw pursuant to MGL Chapter 40A, Section 7, and the Howard zoning bylaws as these may be amended from time to time.
I'd just like to add to that motion that the applicant, by being granted to renovate and construct a two-story addition onto the pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling, and that by doing so, there'll be no new non-conformities and no substantial detriment to the neighborhood. Okay. Do we have a second for the motion?
I'll second the motion as amended.
Okay. I should have asked first, was there any further discussion on the motion?
No.
Okay. All right, Dave, you second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Regarding the 5? Okay, good. Motion is approved.
Thank you very much for your time. We
Thank you very much.
appreciate it.
Pleasure. I see that Dave did that motion. Oh, do you have I need to stamp plans. Do you have a fresh one of this that? Okay. Yeah, I need a clean one. Oh, Al's got one. All right, thank you.
You got it?
Yeah,
Okay.
appreciate it. Bill, it'll just be a minute, okay? Okay, we're back. Al, should you read the next case, please?
Case number 2023-28, Rudolph Hernandez and Robin Hernandez, trustees of the Hernandez Living Trust, through their attorney, William D. Kroll. The owners of the property is located at 2 Pilgrim Road, Assessors Map 7, parcel C16, in the RH-1 zoning district. The applicant seeks a special permit or, in the alternative, a variance to renovate and construct a covered porch on the second floor deck with exterior stairs onto pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling pursuant to the Howard zoning bylaw 325, 54, and 52, Mass General Laws, Chapter 40A, and Section 6 and 10.
Okay, the health department has no concerns with the project proposed, and project does not, as a project, not encroach upon the existing septic. And this applicant will be appearing in front of the Conservation Board on October 3rd for approval and for review. So the Conservation made that note to me. And regarding letters, I have a letter from Butters at 8 Ale Lane, has submitted an objection to the stairwell construction, but not to the covered porch. And they would not object to the stairwell if it was screened by shrubs and landing. I'm just taking a section of their letter out, and paraphrase another abutters. Abutters at 12 Pilgrim Road, William and Robert Heffernan and Joy Warrington are opposed to the proposed spiral stairway and hope that the owners will consider an alternate plan that would eliminate the westerly extension of the structure. Regarding voting on this case will be Al, myself, Dave Nunley, David Ryer, and Kenneth Dixon. And, Chairman, I'd like to ask the applicants to represent them, to introduce themselves and who you are going to be presenting your case with.
Thank you. Attorney William Kroll from Harwich Port, good evening. I have seated with me Robin Hernandez, who, with her husband Rudolph, owns the property in question at 2 Pilgrim Road. Submitted with the application a copy of the assessor's map, Pilgrim Road, Harwich Port, right next to Pilgrim Church. You go down to the end. This house is on the right at the end, at the ocean. We probably don't really need the Board of Appeals approval in this case because the covered porch, the interior, meets all the setback requirements. The proposed deck shown on the southwest side, you also see decking all the way along the boundary of that whole southwest corner. There's already structure deck that's 0.6 feet from, 0.6 feet, 6 inches from the lot line. So we have a pre-existing non-conforming structure already right almost on the lot line. So any proposed renovation here is not coming any closer to the lot line than the existing structure. And the structure in our bylaw is defined as any combination of materials designed to give shelter or support. That's a deck. There's already decking there. So we're not doing anything that's coming any closer to the lot line, and we're not creating any new habitable space, either with the covered porch or the interior. That's just the porch, not enclosed, and we're not creating any new habitable space where it says proposed deck and stairway. I think the building commissioner probably sent us here because we're, with the covered porch on the interior, we're adding some structure, some site coverage, and then we're reducing walkway to offset that, so we maintain the same site coverage at 61.5%, but I think he probably wanted your blessing on that part of it. I don't know how hard he was pushing a special permit for the proposed deck and stairway, but let me explain a little bit further. I have a packet of pictures, 6 or 7 pictures to give to each of you, because it's important to note that we're deconstructing, when you're talking about a view and so forth, which, as you know, I don't have to remind you, there's no right to a view in Massachusetts without a view easement. But we're deconstructing a significant portion of the property where it says proposed deck. That's already a second-story room that we're removing entirely and just using the floor of it basically to be the second-story deck now. So we're actually improving the view, it would seem to me, of any neighbors, and with a stairway, which could have been a wooden stairway that comes down, makes a right angle, has more mass, obstructs more view than a spiral staircase that you can see through and is more cylindrical. It seems to me that that's better. So let me just show you, give you the pictures to look at. Maybe a couple of you could share, but the main thing is that this is being removed, this part here that I'm pointing to. That's what's leaving. So we're deconstructing a habitable room. So we have more deck. And you'll see, there's other pictures that give you more, more perspective on it and the size of it. But if you take this picture here, let me give you a better one. Let's try to do the best. If you take this room off, what we're doing is creating a deck from this point to this point. It's flat, no overhang, it's the same as the existing roof here, and getting rid of all that structure.
Sure. I can share with Dave.
Yeah, I'll look at it.
Okay.
I have enough to satisfy that.
Oh, thank you.
These look like vintage photographs.
They are. This afternoon.
Yeah.
Just give you a minute to look those over if you want.
No, he didn't give me one. He has two in his desk, but he didn't give me one.
I was hoping you could share, Mr. Dix.
I'll share. I was here. Maybe they're not proper. I was here. This is a no-brainer, I think. She gave a tour. Well, explained it. Yeah. What, see these trees? Over here.
You need to remind me what that view is from.
Okay, so there's
Trees up, so I don't see.
been 2 letters submitted, all right? One is from that abutter, that,
Oh, this is the abutter back here.
yes,
That's it.
but that's,
The green circle?
yes, but that's brought as close to,
Got that brown.
close up as possible.
No, this one.
But this one, that's the window of the abutter. That's the only view down towards this deck that we're.
That's the abutter on Pilgrim, right? Well, that's the abutter on Air.
No,
No, that's the abutter on Pilgrim.
Pilgrim, that's what I
directly
said,
north.
that's what I said, abutter on Pilgrim.
Directly north.
Yeah, okay.
That's the one. The green, the green circle, that's the abutter.
One and the same.
He's
Yes.
not here.
Okay.
Okay.
Then
This guy's got no issues.
Mrs. Hernandez brought it closer so you
Oh, I see, okay.
see a bit, see it a little bit better.
Oh, I see, okay, thank you.
You guys have that? With the green circle? Yeah. You have that?
Got it, yep.
Okay. The abutter on Air Lane, which is, I went down there
That's him.
earlier this week, and that has to be like 300 yards away. And when you look to the southeast, from the end of Air Lane to the Hernandez house, there's a lot of conservation land in between. There are trees. With all due respect to the abutter, I could barely see this corner from Air Lane, this corner of the Hernandez house, because of all the trees that already exist there, the natural buffer that already exists. And it has to be at least 300 yards away, in my opinion. So I don't think, again, with all due respect to that neighbor, that it significantly impairs a view, even if they had a right to a view, that it does not significantly impair it, and it's not a substantial detriment to their property. I would also submit that if we took the issue of a view out of the question, if that was not an issue at all, and I was presenting this petition in a subdivision that wasn't near the water, I don't think anybody would really have an issue with what's being proposed. We're nearer to the water, people are jealous of their views of the water, but as I said, you're not entitled to a legal right to a view in Massachusetts without a recorded view easement, which there is not in this case. The abutters to the north have this narrow view of the ocean, but as I said, we already have structure. We're not creating any new footprint to that corner of the house except for the spiral staircase, which we think is better than having a wooden staircase there. There's also, because of the decking on that corner, there's no, as a practical matter, no room to put any kind of a buffer. I think if we tried to satisfy the neighbors over on Air Lane 300 yards away by putting up a buffer there along that sideline, first of all, it would impair the view of the people north on Pilgrim Road. They probably wouldn't want to see arborvitae's planted along that, or any kind of a fence or whatever. But more importantly, to my client, is that they don't want to impair their own view of their house looking westerly towards the ocean. If they put some kind of a buffer there and high enough to obstruct their view from the second floor deck. That doesn't make any sense to me, that the buffer would have to be that high in order to protect somebody else's view and impair their own view. That's not why you buy waterfront property. So I don't think there's a practical matter, a buffer, or putting a condition in about a buffer would work to help either of those neighbors. So just to summarize, the enclosed proposed porch in the interior middle of the property meets all setbacks. It offsets, it's a wash with the site coverage. It's not increasing the site coverage at all. And on the southwest corner, I don't think we really need your approval, as I said. I'd like you to get it in terms of an all-encompassing special permit this evening. And I think that we clearly meet the test of this not being a substantial detriment to the entire neighborhood. It's not devaluing substantially all the folks in the neighborhood, all the properties in the neighborhood. And it's not, as you know, just one abutter that can object. I think in the Quasit case that we all sat through, some of us sat through many hearings, the point was made that one abutter does not constitute the entire neighborhood. All of that being said, I don't think that there would be any substantial increase in noise, odors, fumes, congestion, or the like, and there would be no substantial detriment to the entire neighborhood. Site coverage stays the same. Building coverage increases slightly, but still clearly under the 30% maximum. And we would ask that you grant the special permit this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney. I just have a couple of questions, real quick ones before I pass to the members. I'm a little confused, and you know, Bill, I've always enjoyed your education as I've gone for the few years here on the zoning board, and
Likewise.
and get a little clarification at the times. But I don't understand why you're saying that you have doubts as to why you need to appear from our board, because it's a non-conforming site, from what I can gather, and the structure you want to put on there, it's inside the 20-foot setback. So since it's encroaching on the setback, I realize, you know, in many cases, we approve, you know, because of the case law and so forth, adjustments on a setback, on a thing here. But since you're looking to be within 20 feet, that is why you need to be in front of our board, correct? Why do you feel the fact that it was an option of the building commissioner to approve it without going in front of our board?
It's a good academic exercise, I think.
Okay,
Because put aside for a moment the spiral staircase. We're deconstructing habitable space. What are we constructing? We're not constructing any habitable space,
that part I understand.
and we're not changing that footprint.
You're going outside the current lot line setback of the side.
We're not changing the footprint of the room that we're deconstructing.
That part I understand.
Okay, so
But
we're
the
not
staircase,
altering, I said, put aside the staircase for a minute.
okay, all right.
Right? So if we were just coming before you with the deck,
You did not have to come in front of us. That I agree upon.
that's my point.
Okay, but for the
Right.
staircase, you need to.
Well, with the staircase, we already have deck that goes to 6 inches from the lot line. So
Right,
we're
but now
not
you-
constructing any new structures,
But you're going up.
no new structures within any closer than the existing structures.
That stairwell is not the staircase is not a deck material. It's going above the deck height.
But it's not habitable space. We're not creating any habitable structure.
Rick, Earl, is that why the building coverage is changing from 20.9 to 23.4? I'm trying to figure out if you're deconstructing, why is the proposed building coverage greater than the existing building coverage?
The enclosed porch in the interior, in the middle of the house,
Okay,
doesn't exist right now.
got it.
Additional building footprint.
All right,
Thank you.
So, as I said, it's an interesting academic exercise. Now, if you put the staircase back in, assuming that you're right, right?
I'll go along with that.
For the sake of argument, I respectfully disagree, but for the sake of argument, you
Remember,
put the-
I was an attorney for one issue of the Cape Cod Chronicle, so.
I recall thinking I was not aware of that. I knew Mr. Ryer was, but I wasn't certain Mr. Sullivan
Well, it
was.
was in print, so it must be true.
Yes, right, absolutely. So if you put the staircase back into the equation, you could argue that we're altering a pre-existing non-conforming single-family residence by adding some structure to it.
Right.
No closer to the lot line than the existing structure, but we're adding some structure to the single-family residence. So I think that's probably another reason the building commissioner said, I'd rather have the Board of Appeals bless this with a special permit so that he doesn't have to make that decision whether you
Okay.
need it or you don't need it. But my argument is that we meet the standards for a special permit, including the spiral staircase.
David?
I do agree with your interpretation,
Okay.
32554. With all respect to Attorney Crowell, increasing the, where is it here? Increasing the habitable floor area is only one thing they mention in the bylaw. It says,
Including but not limited to,
in
right?
addition, extension, right, would include, meaning there could be additional things like increasing the height.
Right.
So
Yes.
I happen to think our chairman has a better argument. Okay, help me understand, I'm trying to understand this house up here in a circle, is that Air Lane?
No,
Okay.
that's Pilgrim Road to the
Old
north,
Pilgrim Road.
due north looking towards Route 28.
Okay, so this would then, this staircase here is on the proposed right elevation? Those are the stairs we're talking about coming off of this deck, the one shown on your plan here, as proposed right elevation on the,
Give us
is this
give us a moment.
staircase the one shown in that photo going down?
Let's see if there's he's asking about, well, he's asking about this one. Where is that staircase?
That's on the
Is that here?
west side, is this west?
Like,
Yeah, west side.
Yeah,
That's
about
the
these
staircase that's between the existing house and the westerly boundary line. That already
Okay,
exists.
but on your plan here, is it this staircase right here?
That's the one, that's over there.
Yes,
That is,
That's-
okay.
Yes.
That's the one.
It's not the spiral staircase.
I'm sorry?
It's not the spiral staircase on the plan.
No. It's on your elevation
It's a
plan there.
staircase to the driveway, isn't it?
yes.
Having been there and
Yes,
looked at it,
yes.
okay.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so the other staircase will be going, well, it's on the other side of the house. Okay. Just trying to understand the pictures
The other
with the
staircase
plans.
is actually on the same side. Right there, see where that picture's taken from, right there? I'm actually standing where the spiral staircase would go.
Right, but it's going down this way from the picture here. Again, I'm
Yes,
looking at the
yes,
elevation.
yes.
Yeah, it's behind
Yes,
it.
yep,
Here's where you were.
The deck is above it, and then the staircase would be on the outside, on the air road side, going down.
Yes,
that's, yeah.
Okay, just trying to understand it, little,
as shown on the certified plot plan.
okay.
Just for further
Yes.
clar- where you were standing is the bottom of the stairs or the top of the stairs? You took the picture.
Where the
Oh.
spiral staircase will be,
Right.
there's not a spiral
No,
staircase
where
yet.
were
Right,
you
but-
standing?
Where were you standing? Where the
the
bottom
deck.
of the stairs
Where
would
the
be?
bottom of the staircase would be, yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, that was the only question I had.
Going down, any other questions?
No.
No questions.
All right, I've got a few more. So, I sent you some materials from, here's what I see back in 2000 and, let me get my stuff right. Okay. Back in '88, the retaining wall permit was issued for, I believe it's the existing retaining wall. I don't know if it's been approved since then.
I don't, to be honest, I don't know. I know Paul Cuddy
Right.
did that.
So
That's
that's-
who we
Paul
bought
Cuddy
the
plan.
property from.
Yeah.
So that's remained the same since
Yes.
'88.
Yes,
34 years, he built a good retaining wall. Okay. But what I don't see in past permitting where a deck was approved.
Which deck are you referring to?
The deck that we're all referring to, that's on the deck itself,
Main deck,
the main deck.
main,
So,
where the
okay,
floor of the staircase would
just
be.
kind of talking out this for a second, we're discussing the fact that the current deck is within half a foot or 0.6 feet of the lot line. And the whole basis for looking at that there's already been on this nonconformity structure right up close to the sideline is a big part of the discussion here, looking at, since we've already got structure there, you know, why not the stairwell? And I can see the same argument another 20, you know, another 10 years from now, when someone wants to expand the whole house and put it all within a foot of the lot line. And I'm assuming here, and again, I don't have any, there's no materials I could find regarding approval. The plan itself shows proposed deck,
Proposed deck, right?
but it was never applied for. There was no application for any decking on that structure. And I'm sure at the time, whatever, we got a big retaining wall here, we gotta fill it in, and someone said, go ahead, build the deck. And I think it was looked at as being an amenity to have a deck in this backyard instead of a pile of dirt up to the retaining wall. And that was probably a very reasonable thing to do, was to allow the owners the time and going forward to maintain a deck up to the retaining wall, because what else you gonna do with a bunch of rocks and dirt? So it made absolute sense to approve for a retaining wall for that convenience and that being an amenity, not necessarily approved as a structure from which you can utilize. Now, we can build a whole house up to within half a foot of the sideline.
And that was 25 years ago that
Well,
went
I
into
understand, so
existence.
I'm looking at that deck now as being, that is, I forget what the word's called, but it's settled business, you know.
35 years ago, sorry.
It's settled business.
Right.
You know, it's been over 10 years.
Over 10 years.
And since no one objected that deck being up to the 0.6 feet of the sideline, that it is now, that's all set, and that deck is fine, and you can maintain that deck and replace the deck and so forth. I don't feel that it's, creates a right to encroach further on the setback of the non-conforming house in that lot. So I don't agree with the idea that, first of all, I don't, the fact this deck is gonna be, I mean, the staircase is gonna be built, because as now we're going out now for the staircase, I look at it as already, if we're doing it based upon that deck being the structure that's been already approved in a non-conforming situation, that it's gonna give allowance in the future to basically occupy and build a full structure 0.6 feet from the setback.
It's theoretically possible, yes.
I think it's very likely, you know, at some point. Because but I don't believe that deck was, first of all, I can't find approval for the deck. So I think the intention at the time was, you got a retaining wall, fine, fill it in and deck it up, and nobody cared, and it seemed like a reasonable thing to do. And again, I can't find anything besides the approval of the retaining wall on the record. So I just have, at the moment, I don't have enough information regarding how that deck got there, in my opinion, to render a decision about the stairwell.
So,
And I don't believe the deck was I don't see an approval, and I don't believe the deck was approved as a structure where anyone had the intent that in the future they're gonna allow for any further encroachment of that sideline by additions to the house. And this is an addition to the house, having that stairwell there.
so I have two thoughts, if I may.
Yeah.
One is, with all due respect to the chair, I don't think intention matters at this point, where you have a deck that's been there for more than 10 years. There's nothing that anybody can do about that.
I
It
agree.
exists.
I agree.
So it's a structure, so how can you go back and say, yeah, but that's not what was intended? It is what it is, legally it's allowed, it exists, and it's there after 10 years, and there's nothing that zoning or any abutter can do about it. So we have structure within 0.6 feet of that boundary line, like it or not. We've got it, number one. Number two, let's assume that we're talking. Let's assume the deck never was built. Let's assume there's no deck there. We have an existing structure, the house, and the portion of the house that we're deconstructing, but the existing house is 9.3 feet from that lot line, right? We have these all the time. Pre-existing, non-conforming, single-family residence, under the Gale case, we're 9.3 feet from the lot line. The Gale case says you can, with a special permit, intensify that nonconformity if you choose to, and allow us to come closer to that lot line with a spiral staircase, if in your judgment, that staircase, that intensification of that nonconformity, in your opinion, that does not constitute a substantial detriment to the entire neighborhood. That's the test. It's not whether an abutter doesn't like it, that it's going to impair their view a little bit.
Well,
And
I
it's
don't-
not, it's not that you don't like it, that there's a deck there. If that deck didn't exist at all, I would submit that you should be granting a special permit for that spiral staircase anyway. Because we're not a substantial detriment to the entire neighborhood. The Gale case says we can intensify an existing nonconformity.
I see your point in that fact.
So I'm trying to go in steps and say, okay, if you don't agree with me about we shouldn't even have to have a special permit, fine, if you, then we have a deck that's a half a foot from the lot line, so we've got structure, so we're not coming any closer. If you don't agree with that, I think you should agree that we still meet easily the standard for a special permit. We're not a substantial detriment to the entire neighborhood. Regardless of whether the neighbors don't like any kind of tangential impairment of their view or not, that's irrelevant to the discussion.
First of all, regarding the view, I absolutely agree with you. The view situation is absolutely irrelevant to the situation. So that's not it, and I'm not questioning it at all.
And there's no immediate abutter there, that's conservation or Harwich Conservation Trust land there. It's not like that staircase is coming closer to somebody else's deck that's only 10 feet from that lot line. There's nobody there. So what's the issue with the spiral staircase? I'm not understanding.
Well, when you put that viewpoint, the fact that looking at the Gale case and so forth, as if the deck wasn't there, I was looking at my discussion regarding the fact that we were proposing the encroachment, the additional intensification based upon the fact that the deck is already out to 0.6 feet of the lot line. Your
That's not
viewpoint-
my, that's not my,
Yeah, well,
argument.
that's how I took the original argument, was based upon, hey, we got structure already to 0.6, so why not the staircase just going another 2 or 3 feet?
well,
Okay, but I
as an
do want,
attorney, I come in usually with 3 game plans.
sure. And so that was how you first presented everything.
Mhm.
And I'm looking at the deck not finding where it was ever approved
Mhm.
and why it was there in the first place.
Understood.
I do understand, I do appreciate your argument, is if the deck wasn't there, this is still an intensification, which may qualify regarding the, okay.
Thank you for listening.
Well, I try. Any other questions at all? Yeah. No other questions from the board. I'd like to ask anyone in the audience like to speak regarding this case. Yes, sir. Why don't you come to the front here, and I think there's a piece of paper there, it might even be a pen. If you could just indicate, fill that out, and if you could identify yourself, sir, as well as your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Alan Campbell. I live at 18 C Street in Harwichport. It's one street over from the street in question here, Pilgrim Road. I got notice of this as an abutter to an abutter, so we own some property in the back that abuts some of the properties on Pilgrim Road. I was also asked by the Heffernan family, who live in the house, 2 houses to the north of the property in question here, if I would come and voice the same opinion that they had stated in the letter that they submitted to you. And also, I'd like to state my opposition to the grant of a special permit on my own in this situation. In the Heffernan's case, I think what they're really objecting to is the spiral staircase. The fact that deck and porch going up will be encroaching on the sideline setback, or is really not an issue to them. But, and I understand that it does in fact impact their view, and a view is not protected, but it does, the staircase, in their view at least, impacts substantially the character of the neighborhood, in the sense that it does impact their view. In my case, I believe that this is another example of a special permit that a number of which have been granted along the beach houses along in front of C Street, Cat Alley down there, as well as C Street Extension, and the end of Pilgrim Road. So over the past 20-some years that I've lived here, I've seen one special permit after another granted by the board that's allowed encroachment upon sideline setbacks or rear yard setbacks. And at some point, you have to say all of these encroachments into the so-called protected area by the zoning ordinance is a substantial impact on the neighborhood. It isn't just one person, like in the case of the Heffernans or the Air Road people that submitted some comments to the situation. So I believe that, and I would ask you to consider that the staircase issue does in fact create a substantial impact on more than just a view, but the whole expansion of encroachments into that particular neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.
Is there anyone else in the audience who'd like to speak to this case? Okay. Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to close the public meeting.
May I
Oh, absolutely.
respond to the
Oh, certainly.
previous speaker? Thank you. I'm familiar with Mr. Campbell, and respect the opinion of a fellow attorney. However, you folks are not an aesthetic board, you're a board of appeals. It's not your job, in my opinion, to police aesthetics of what somebody might like or not like. That's more, we used to have a board like that about 25 years ago, but they didn't have any, there was no teeth. They didn't have anything that they could say, okay, you can't do that. They rendered an opinion, we don't like it, but they couldn't do anything about it. The closest we have is the Historic Commission, which is meeting this evening, but we're not over 100 years old, so we don't have to go in front of the Historic Commission to see whether they like the staircase or not, the spiral staircase. Again, we thought that they would like, that it would be better than a wooden staircase because it would be less mass and you could see through it more, but regardless, it's still a free country to a certain extent, and the homeowner says, would like to have a spiral staircase. I think they should have a right to have a spiral staircase as opposed to a wooden staircase that makes a right angle turn. So, with all due respect, I don't think that a spiral staircase substantially impacts the character of that neighborhood, that tips the scale, and with the holistic approach, which I don't think that is within your jurisdiction to say, okay, we're gonna draw the line because we've had all these other intensifications under the Gale case, which is all perfectly legal under the Gale case, to say, okay, now we've had enough Gale case encroachments, and this tips the scale. This one spiral staircase tips the scale and says, okay, time to turn it down and push this wave the other way. I don't think that that's a valid argument for you folks to consider as a Board of Appeals. Thank you.
What's that? Yes, Ed.
I have to disagree. Section 32551 of the bylaw, Section B says, in approving a special permit, the Board of Appeals may attach such conditions and safeguards as are deemed necessary to protect the public and the neighborhood, such as but not limited to the following: modification of the exterior features or appearance of the structure or structures. So I believe this board does have that authority. We don't have to find that it's substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. We just have to make a finding that we think it's necessary to protect the neighborhood in this case. So if we felt that the spiral staircase was totally out of keeping with the character of the neighborhood in Cape Cod, I think we could require a wooden staircase. But that's something the board's gonna have to discuss. But I disagree with your position as a matter of law.
I understand, may I
Oh,
respond?
yeah, go right ahead.
I understand, Mr. Ryer. However, I think that's in the nature of conditions, that you can impose conditions about appearance and the construction of the property and buffering and that type of thing. But I don't think that that gives you enough latitude to say, we don't like this house that you want to build. I don't think that's a condition. I don't think that that section could be enlarged to say, we don't like the appearance of the whole house, so we're not gonna let you build it.
Well, then what does modification of the exterior features or appearances mean then, in that case? I disagree. I think you're totally off base on this
Well,
one, Attorney Crowell, and I respect your legal abilities and
thank you.
opinions, but not this time.
Okay, and you don't have to. It's civil
I think
discourse.
we can make that a condition, and that'd be a wooden staircase,
And-
if the board so elects. I'm not saying we should, I'm just saying I disagree with your position. I want the board to understand that we certainly can put a condition on saying that we don't want the spiral staircase. We want a traditional wooden pressure-treated or vinyl or AZAC or whatever. I'm not saying we should take that position. I think we need to discuss it.
How does that relate to zoning?
What's that?
How does that relate to zoning?
How does it, because 32551 is part of the bylaw, the zoning bylaw.
But we're not a
32551B.
design review committee.
I'm sorry?
We're not a design review committee, we're a zoning board.
I'm just telling you what the bylaw says.
That's an interpretation of the bylaw.
It says that approving a special permit, the Board of Appeals may attach such conditions and safeguards as are deemed necessary to protect the public and the neighborhood, such as, but not limited to, and it lists 5 things, but number 1 is modification of the exterior features or appearances of the structure or structures. So the bylaw certainly gives this board the ability to do that if we think that is necessary to protect the public and the neighborhood. And again, I'm not arguing we should do it, I think we need to discuss it. I'm just arguing that we have the ability to do it.
Most
if
of
we
those
see
5
fit.
points seem to relate to safety and environmental safety in case number 5, as opposed to aesthetics.
That's my point, if I may.
Right, but it also gives, 3 gives us the right to deal in traffic features. We're not the highway department, but we also have that ability. 4 gives us the right to deal with off-site parking, off-street parking, rather.
Which are both, and I put those as both safety issues. I would think that driveway access, meaning blind drives,
Okay, but
ability to turn in without obstructing traffic, things like that, which we've made decisions on before.
Right, but look at 2, we can limit the size, number of occupants, method of time or operation, or extent of facilities. I mean, we've got a lot of power as a Board of Appeals through conditions to control what happens, because our purpose is to protect the neighborhood and the town within the constraints of the law, the bylaw and
If I could
and
intervene
GL.
in the discussion just a moment. I'm agreeing with you. I don't know that it's relevant to where we're going with this, and I would like to have the opportunity to talk more about the spiral staircase and the request for special permit. But I agree with you, that we would have that authority should we choose to.
Yeah, we have the authority. I'm not saying we should do it. I think
Right, and I'm
we need
just
to
saying let's
discuss
move
it.
the
But
discussion.
I just was disagreeing with Attorney Crowell's position that we did not
Sure.
have the authority to
Yeah,
do
agreed.
that.
If I may,
We just want, regardless though, whether we decided it should be a wooden staircase, a steel staircase, or a spiral staircase, it still is occupying a set amount of additional land towards a setback, which the applicant is looking to get
Well,
relief
I
from.
think the applicant meets the requirements
Yeah,
for a special
okay. I
permit.
just wanted to kind of
I
clear.
don't have any, I think,
Right.
I agree with your point on the deck, just because the deck was constructed, if it wasn't legal, because they didn't get a variance for it, we can't take it down because more than 10 years has passed, but I'm not sure, we'd have to get an opinion of council, whether an existing structure that was not legally permitted can then support an additional nonconformity. I don't know the answer, I'm just saying that we'd have to get town council to weigh
Right,
in
and
on that one.
I think it's,
But-
regarding that point, but then Attorney Kroll brought up that it was still a pile of
Exactly.
dirt.
The main house, that's what,
He made an
Yes.
excellent point, and he
Yep.
changed my opinion on that.
I think that carries the day on the special permit. The deck is, the spiral staircase is a separate issue.
Thank you for that, if I may. So if I can go this, kind of the same route, even assuming that Mr. Ryer is correct, okay? Assuming he's correct that you have that authority, my argument is, what's the need to now legislate against a spiral staircase in this one instance? I don't see the need to do that. People have different tastes, they have, and the Hernandez were trying to, they would like a spiral staircase because it's tighter than a wooden staircase, so it takes up less mass, and you can see through it. But why legislate against them just because they would like to have a spiral staircase and you don't see any other spiral staircases?
I don't think Dave was saying he was gonna do that.
No, I didn't say
Other than the
that at
fact
all.
that I wanted to point out.
I agree. You weren't saying that.
So you-
So I'm saying I agree, even assuming that you're right about the interpretation of the bylaw, then why make a decision, if you have that authority, why use that authority in this case to say no spiral staircase?
I'm not
That's my
sure we're
point.
going
I
there.
don't think we're
Well,
going there.
Let's find
We've got
out.
to discuss that as a
Right.
board.
We will,
That's my point, that's all.
okay.
Thank you.
Make a motion to close the public portion of the meeting.
Second. Oh, Al,
Okay, let me get back to my train of thought here.
All those in favor?
Hold on a second, you're not chair yet, get away with it. Okay, so who made the motion? Al, Ken did, right?
Ken.
Okay, and Al, you seconded it? All right, I'm gonna vote on the closing of the public hearing section?
Aye.
Aye, all approved, okay. All right, now we'll entertain discussion by board members.
I think they meet the requirement of a special permit under both the bylaw and the Gale case. They're perhaps intensifying an existing nonconformity. I think they are, actually. I don't agree with Attorney Kroll's position. I think going up in height increases the nonconformity, but they're not creating any new nonconformity, and I don't feel that the proposal will be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. With respect to the gentleman that talked about granting a lot of special permits, it's not so much that we grant them. This is what the law says they are entitled to unless there's a substantial detriment to the neighborhood. And the court cases don't say if you have 1,000 of them, that's more detrimental. You have to really look at each project, we as a board, and decide, is this project really more detrimental? And, I mean, what is more detrimental to me, it's if it decreases the property values, yes, that's clearly gonna be detrimental. If it's so aesthetically garish that it might decrease the property values or scare away the majority of buyers, to me, again, that's more detrimental. The spiral staircase, I have mixed feelings, I have to say. I think it's something we haven't seen a lot of around here. I've seen it inside, but not so much on the exterior. But I think one point that Attorney Kroll made, which I think is an excellent one, and that makes me lean in favor of the spiral staircases, it's gonna be a lot easier to see through than a wooden staircase or an AZAC staircase. I think it is more light and airy, you can see from the plans. I think it's kind of aesthetically pleasing. I've always liked that circular, but you can see how nice and open it will be to increase whatever views people have through it. So I personally, even though I strongly feel we have the authority to require a wooden staircase, I don't think the spiral staircase is going to jeopardize the public or the neighborhood. So that's my 2 cents. So, somebody else is
Any other
voting to
comments from
speak.
anybody?
No, I'm in favor of what David just said, although I'm making an observation from Mr. Kroll, if everything else fails, there's something against the wall over there would be appropriate.
Oh,
I would just like to, I'm having been there, having walked the property, having taken some pictures, if you were to put out any more, what are you gonna call them, barriers, you would be conflicting with one versus another. They don't have any room, it's only 6 feet. I'm completely in favor of what I'm seeing here.
Chris, you know something?
No, I think the second point that you made on the, even if the deck wasn't there, it's a gale case was the point I was gonna make, and you actually, I agree completely with that. So I think it meets the requirements of the gale case, so I don't have any issues with it.
I do think we need the construction time period,
yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
I don't know if they can park on the vehicles on site. There's pretty tight there.
Yeah, I meant to ask that, and let me just, what is your expected time frame for construction?
It's going to be Rick Roy Construction, and I'm not sure if you folks have discussed whether it would take place next fall or winter.
It wouldn't start till the end of summer, after,
Next,
you know, after
next,
summer,
no, after Labor Day next year.
next year.
Okay.
Right.
But I,
That's what they're driving at. They don't want anything during the summer.
Remember that driveway is relatively deep, is it not?
So are you gonna be able to maintain construction vehicles on the property, or?
I can't guarantee that, but it is at the end of the road.
Yeah.
So you only have one abutter to work with.
All right, so we need to, if we go for an approval, it's granted, we will be doing the time situation, but not to maintain construction vehicles on the property. Okay, I think.
You
yeah.
might want to say they shall to the extent possible.
Yes, certainly.
Yeah, because even off-season, all these roads down there are really tight.
All right, so all construction,
They're off-season?
occasionally, yes.
Okay, but you're not going to have your cars there
No,
full-time?
no, no,
That's
no, no,
my
no.
question. Okay. Sorry, I didn't ask correctly that question. Okay.
all right, so as possible, all construction vehicles
Mhm.
to be maintained on the property. Okay, I just need a motion to close discussion.
So moved.
Need a second?
Aye.
Excuse me. Vote on disclosing, closing the discussion. Okay, I'll ask the chair to make a motion.
Case number 2023-28. Rudolph Hernandez and Robin Hernandez, trustees of the Hernandez Living Trust, have been granted a special permit
Renovate and construct,
to renovate and construct
covered porch.
an upper porch on the home. The property is located at 2 Pilgrim Road, assessors map M7, parcel C16, in the RH1 zoning district. The special permit has been given, has been found that the applicant meets the requirements of both the Gale case and the Dietrich cases. The proposed project will intensify one or more existing nonconformities, will create any new nonconformities, and will not substantially be more detrimental to the neighborhood than existing structures. All work shall be performed in accordance with the plans submitted. The special permit is being granted subject to the following conditions. There shall be no demolition, exterior construction, or new landscaping during the period of June 30 through Labor Day of any year. During the of the project, all construction vehicles, if possible, is that the language you're using?
Yeah,
Yeah.
if possible, shall
If
be
possible,
parked on the site or
be parked on the site, or on the property. The condition is a condition of the approval of this that a violation of the terms and conditions of the special permit may be enforced as violations of the Harwich zoning bylaw pursuant to Mass General Law 40A, Section 7, and the Harwich zoning bylaw, as these may be amended from time to time. Was there a question?
May I suggest an amendment? Because if I'm,
Well, I was gonna, go ahead. You can-
because there was just mention of covered porch
Right, covered porch and a second floor deck
with exterior stairs.
exterior stairs.
with exterior stairs onto a pre-existing non-conforming
Right,
single-family dwelling.
In-
That's fine.
Can we say including a spiral staircase if,
Let me just, how about we just say that the applicant has been granted a special permit to renovate and construct a covered porch and second floor deck with exterior stairs onto a pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling. Does that cover it?
doesn't cover the spiral staircase?
Well, it's in
Exterior
accordance with the
stairs.
plans that's shown on the plans.
That was what I was gonna suggest, Mr. Ryder, just in accordance with the plans.
Yeah, that was part of the
Yeah.
motion.
Okay, great. Thank
Okay.
I'll second the amended motion.
So you want to say, instead of exterior stairs, you want to say exterior spiral staircase. I just,
Well, it's in accordance with the plan in any event, it's a spiral.
Exterior stairs was fine,
right,
but in accordance with the plans
right. and- yes.
submitted.
That was
Right.
part of the
He
original
did say that.
motion. Yes.
Good.
And also, any relief not expressly granted hereunder is hereby denied. Okay.
Wanted it clear to the building commissioner that they can have a spiral staircase.
What I'll do is, I'll be happy to send you a motion copy before I send it to the secretary to make the decision. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, I still second the amended motion after that
Yep,
extended discussion of the motion.
okay. Okay, Dave?
All in favor, say aye.
All right, all in favor of on the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion is granted.
Thank you very much.
Good luck with your project.
Yes, good luck.
Thank you. You have a long night ahead.
Just be a minute, Bill, I get myself organized here.
So, Dave, back to the discussion on the aesthetics. Actually, number 1 in that paragraph does give some, I think,
That's what he read.
yeah,
Yeah, that's what I was reading from.
right. I mean, the first bullet.
Right.
But I just think that's dangerous if, you gotta be really careful when you pull that out.
Well, no, because the reason they're here is they can't do it as a matter of right. They need to get permission. That's why they're here in the first place. And what the town has said, and state also, that when they come in asking permission, when you grant that permission, you're entitled as a board to put conditions on it. And that's what they've given us, that authority. And I'm not sure we've ever required anybody to modify it, but I just wanted to emphasize we can, because it could come up someday that we really want to modify something. I think in this case, what swayed me was the openness of the spiral staircase. I think that enhances the view from a wooden or a vinyl staircase. But I like to keep calling the board's attention to that, because it also, those other 4 things could come into play too, sometime, limiting the number of people or cars or whatever it is we feel is appropriate. So, sorry.
Oh, good thing. Hey, we had a case a few months back where we required parking, but they weren't showing the plans. All right, Al, you read the next case, please?
Okay, case number 2023, Donna, excuse me, Donna L. Levinson and Amy P. Levinson, through their attorney William Kroll, are the owners of the property located at 39 Wawatasi Road, Assessors Map 6, parcels B1-2 in the RH1 zoning district. The applicant seeks a special permit and in the alternative, a variance to raise and replace pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling pursuant to the Harwich zoning bylaws, section 325, 54, and 52, and the Mass General Laws, chapter 40A and section 6 and 10. Mr. Cole, did you want to read that letter of approval, of support, I should say? Or would you like me to read it?
Why don't you read it, Mr. Donahue, please?
Now, my mouth ain't gonna find it.
Which one do you want out, the Board of?
I think
Oh,
from
yeah, the
Kevin
letter of
Samard.
approval. I got it from here.
Al?
Oh, thank you. I figured I'd give you the opportunity in case you'd like to read them in. We are writing to express our support for case number 2023-29 filed by Donna Levinson and Amy Levinson. We have the property located at 35 Wawatasi Road since '97. Levinson seeks to renovate property located on 39 Wawatasi, which abuts our property. We fully support the plan filed by the Levinsons, and we believe it will make the positive addition to the street. It's signed Linda and Kevin Simard. Thank you.
And also point out the health department has no concerns with the project as proposed. Okay, voting on the case would be Al, Dave Nunnally, Chris Murphy, David Ryer, and John August. And Chairman asks the applicant representative to introduce themselves and people who are assisting you in your presentation.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And thank you, Mr. Donahue, for reading that. I used up all my letter reading at the last month at the Stag property hearing. There were like 7 of them, so I appreciate that.
I was feeling bad for you.
Thanks. I'm Attorney William Kroll from Harwich Port, and I'm representing Donna and Amy Levinson this evening, and they're seated right behind me. They're the owners of the property. And I have with me also the architect, Paul Muldoon, from Harwich Port, and the builder representative, Brendan Lowney, from Lewis and Weldon. This property is on south of Lower County, Wawatasi Road. You're familiar with the area. And we're proposing to demolish and replace the pre-existing non-conforming single-family residence as per the plot plan that was submitted, drawn by All Cape Septic and Survey, and the building and elevation plans by Muldoon Architects, submitted with the petition. The northerly setback, and this is one plot plan that has dotted lines showing you the existing dwelling, and then the more solid lines showing you the proposed dwelling. So on the northerly side, it's going to improve a little bit. We're at, it'll go from 29.5 feet to 29.7 feet from the northerly lot line. The setback required is 20 feet, so it's still conforming. The easterly setback is non-conforming at 17.5 feet, but will not come any closer. It's going to create more habitable space on that side, but it's within the 20-foot setback, so it's non-conforming, pre-existing non-conforming. The southerly setback, the same, pre-existing non-conforming at 14.5. It also will increase the habitable area within that 20-foot setback. And the westerly setback from Wawatasi is 26 feet. And it has to be 25 feet, so we're conforming on that side. The existing building coverage is 18%, 30% maximum. It will increase to 21%, but still well below the maximum. The site coverage is 30.5%, 35% maximum, and we're going to 34.5, so we're still conforming. So we're not creating any new nonconformities. and we're intensifying existing nonconformities on the east side and on the southerly side by creating new habitable space within those setbacks. So our argument is that the new dwelling would not result in any substantial increase in noise, odors, fumes, traffic, congestion, or the like, would not constitute a nuisance, and there would be no substantial detriment to the entire neighborhood as a result of this demolition and reconstruction. And as Mr. Ryer has pointed out earlier and on several other occasions, it would not devalue the properties in the neighborhood. Most of these renovations, in fact, enhance, as he has said, enhance the value of the properties in the neighborhood. So we would ask on that basis that you grant the special permit this evening. Thank you.
Any spiral staircases?
That's going to be inside on this one. No spiral staircases,
We are.
and there's no water view involved.
Okay. Questions from the board? David?
I take it the parking, I can barely read it. It looks like gravel there. Is that gonna be the parking?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. It's an existing gravel parking area.
Two
Will remain.
cars or more?
2 cars.
Great
Okay.
question. Where's the parking?
It's.
On the west
you can
side.
barely read it there. See where it says gravel?
Just south of the soil absorption system.
All right, okay.
Yeah, it's very faint. Is that cantilever coming out?
I thought there was a septic system.
Cantilever is proposed.
I'm sorry?
The cantilever is a proposed structure.
Okay.
Wait a minute. I thought this was a septic system.
Yeah, but here's, see where it says gravel here? This area here?
Oh, I see, okay.
Yeah,
All right,
it's
all
got-
right.
It's smudged or something on the
All right,
copy.
thank you.
Even though that's
What about the overhang? Is that coming out or staying?
and this overhang. Not attached to the ground. Yeah. Okay, and this here. He's asking about this now. This is proposed.
Correct.
The overhang towards Wawatesi is proposed.
Okay. That's all I have.
How many square feet in the existing building? And what's the proposed square footage?
Bear with me a second. The finished first and second floor square footage existing is 1934. The proposed square footage on the first and second is 2642.
Thank you.
Natalie, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions.
John?
No, it's pretty straightforward.
Now I have no.
Al? Chris? Ken?
No?
What's your expected time frame on the project?
Construction to start as soon as we can.
ASAP. In anticipation of keeping construction vehicles on the property?
That shouldn't be a problem.
Did you say should not?
Should not be a problem.
Right, so you'll be able to retain all the,
That's correct.
I didn't have any other questions myself. Okay. How's that?
Are we going to ask for public input?
I am. Okay, I'd like to open this up to the public?
But that is rare, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, you've already taught me enough, Bill. I didn't have any, threw me a softball on this one. Is there anybody in the public who'd like to speak to this case? Okay, hearing none. I'd like to call for motion to close public hearing.
I do have a final
Yes, sir.
comment if you would like. It's a little local history if you are interested.
Absolutely.
Okay. And I don't know if you've heard this story before, I apologize, but Wawatesi, all right? Why is it named Wawatesi
I was
Road?
thinking the same thing, so
Okay.
thank you very much.
All right, so having grown up in town here, my grandparents, Fred and Helen Kroll, were friends with Fred and Flossie Boshinen, right? And Flossie's father, James Hultz, owned all of Hultz Point, which is Fiddler's Landing down by Allen Harbor,
Okay?
right? He owned all of that, and there was a whole bunch of cottages back then in the early 1900s. And he also owned what is now Three Buoys clothing store in middle of Harwichport. That was the Hultz General Store way back when. So James Hultz used to read to his daughter, Flossie Boshinen, bedtime stories. And her favorite bedtime story that her father read to her was Hiawatha. And in Hiawatha, the Native American term for firefly is Wawatasi. That's why it's called that. And you have Hiawatha Road, and then you have Wawatasi Road.
Knowing that was worth the trip here tonight.
Just trying to mix it up a little bit, Mr. Chairman.
Lighten it up a bit.
Okay, I do have an additional point. The overhang is going into the front setback, but only by 1.2 feet, so I believe it's allowed
Yes.
under 325-18F.
Thank you. I did have Mr. Muldoon measure that in case, I said, Mr. Ryer's probably going to ask that. Right? So I had him make that measurement,
Yeah.
and it's in fact 24.5 feet, so it's only 6 inches closer than what's allowed. You're supposed to be 25 feet, so it's only 6 inches, so you could rely on that section, and if not, then I'm hoping the board would say it's de minimis and we're not going to worry about it.
Yeah, no, I just took the 26 feet and,
Yes,
but that's, now I see that's not exactly straight. Okay,
Right.
So it's.
that's
but
why
it
I had
is-
him measure it.
Yeah, I had
yeah.
1.2, but it's still under the 2 feet, which
Yes.
I think is not a problem. I just call it out.
Yeah.
Not an issue.
Thank you.
Just wanted it noted that we noted it, so it'll be in the minutes.
That would be, that's important, because again, we don't need the building commissioner to say, wait a minute. No,
Right.
It was already addressed and you allowed it.
Right, because that would require a variance
Yes,
if it were over 2 feet.
thank you for bringing it up.
Yep, you're welcome.
I'd like to ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
Move.
Okay? I have a second?
I'll second.
Case number 2023-29, Donna.
We're going to vote on the closing first.
Oh, I think-
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, go ahead, Al. All
Gotta
yours.
move it along. Case number 2023-29, Donna S. Levinson and Amy P. Levinson, through their attorney, William Kroll, have been granted a special permit for 39 Wawatasi Road, assessors map 6 parcels B1-2 in the RH 1 zoning district. The board, oops, make it perfectly easy for me to get the right one. The board has moved to grant that special permit in this case, having found that the applicant meets requirements and bylaws and the Gale and Diedrich cases. As the proposed project will intensify one or more existing nonconformities and will not create any new nonconformities and will not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than existing structure. All work should be performed in accordance with the plans submitted with this application. The special permit is subject to the following conditions. There will be no demolition, exterior construction, or new landscaping during the period of June 30 through Labor Day of any year. During the life of the project, all construction vehicles, now just so you can get them on
Yep.
property? Okay, all construction vehicles shall be upon the property of 39 Wawatasi. Is a condition of this approval that the violation of the terms and conditions of the special permit may be enforced as a violation of the Howard zoning bylaw pursuant to MGL Chapter 40A, Section 7, and the Howard zoning bylaw as these may be amended from time to time.
I just want to throw in there, a special permit to raise and replace the pre-existing
Raise.
non-conforming single-family dwelling. Okay.
I'll second the motion as amended.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time.
Mr. Chairman, if you excuse me for a minute, I'll be right
Yes,
back.
right.
And I couldn't find that.
Yeah, well,
You're not coming back in.
we're going to take a 5-minute break.
So I stopped to them.
I didn't extend it to 7 minutes.
Where it was, took me down. I said,
Oh, is that right?
let's get a tour.
So you went down that dirt road?
I did.
I went down, and I've been down that dirt road before, and I saw that there was nothing there, right? It's just-
There is nothing. It's just, a guy has it mowed with his little lawnmower.
Okay.
That's all there is.
I was up there with my wife. So I didn't get home till 2 this morning.
That's right. Did you get delayed on the way home?
No, perfect.
You were supposed to be home at 2 o'clock in the morning?
More or less. I guess I shouldn't, I didn't get home. I didn't get this.
You went to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning.
I was home by 1:45.
Oh, Jesus.
So, so I joined my wife, and I says, you know what? I'm not, I can't see it. I'm not about to walk in there. I think I'm pretty good.
Yeah, and there's nothing, and by the way, that's a building site, there's nothing there.
Right,
So
exactly.
but I was trying to figure that out. No change, no change, no
Right,
change. No,
exactly.
it's not no change.
I think that must be what is going to be. That's what I assumed.
Well, again,
I was gonna
had,
ask that.
they basically, the night she didn't know the answer to it, and I don't see her sitting here, interestingly, unless it must be her husband. But I think they just made a proposed site and said, okay, if this was your site, that would be your,
Right, exactly, yeah.
but it's really not existing. So we all have shellfish allergies or don't like shrimp.
That's funny. I don't have any, Renee does.
Wow.
My
And
only-
she doesn't like wild game either,
my
so
only-
that's not gonna work.
My only allergy is, not an allergy, it's a preference that is overly old wine, so.
And then he's not asking us to bring wine. I said, I know, I'm bringing a bottle, I'm sure you.
You said that? I didn't see that.
Yeah, he said, 'cause he asked us, what can you bring? I mean, I asked him several times, what can we bring? I mean, like, so I'm bringing.
He didn't, I just thought bringing wine was like a given.
That's an automatic, exactly.
I didn't even, but consider it that.
Let's see, looking forward to seeing you on Friday. Let's see, dinner at 6:30 PM, ties are right. Okay. Good morning, Paul, Chris, happy to bring here's where he said bring an appetizer. Looking forward to seeing all at 6:30 PM Friday. As previously mentioned, ties are not an issue. Would be pleased if you could bring along an appetizers.
Right. I assumed the wine was a given.
I agree totally. I don't go to somebody's house without a bottle of wine.
Yeah, I'll figure, get one or two down there, and
You have a few of them down there.
might be able to figure one or two out.
Well, not knowing what the menu's gonna be makes it a little harder. It's true. He didn't, I mean, you said Mediterranean, and I said whatever I was gonna do, so there's not quite as much information.
And Renee's not sure what she's gonna make. She's, we have, I have a bunch of tomato plants, so we have some fresh tomatoes. She's debating whether to make like bruschetta, but she also makes this killer, like artichoke, like baked.
Oh, okay.
Baked slices that are delicious.
No, so I love those.
My concern is,
The mic is on, just so you know. Thank you.
we were building something which was going to be monstrosity.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's why I said I wasn't necessarily saying should,
So we have the option.
that we had the right to. But someday there
So
will.
I'll be sending you copies of, I'll be writing up all the.
So would somebody be able to build a structure 6 inches away from that lot?
Alicia's no longer working for zoning, so we have Rachel and Scott.
Yes, because the house
Particularly at the
itself,
beginning,
get the
in case
deck,
I missed
right?
something,
But the house itself,
Also
as
missing
Attorney Kroll
a
pointed
copy
out,
of the
is within
final
the 20 foot. So
decision.
they've already got it
full
done.
decision,
Sure.
out.
Before you submit it.
Before it's
And
Happy
clear.
to review it.
Right
Now, we may
Obviously,
say,
make any changes that were discussed during the meeting, if I catch anything, I'll make
Yeah,
a change.
that would be difficult.
And I particularly want to do that.
It was built in the 80s, right?
But
You know,
next
in
to them is
case I think that
conservation land. It's
it's
not
one that
like
people-
there's another,
Right.
another house or something, right?
Obviously, like,
Maybe different,
with what-
just with conservation land,
Sent that to
what's
the
the,
attorney, just
Sure.
say, okay, read it through, make sure
Yeah.
you don't miss anything
Right,
here.
right.
You know, particularly on,
effect?
you know,
But if there was
Shayla
a house
used to
there
do it
where
when
it
she was
gonna be
Board of
right
Appeals
up, there's
secretary.
no
She
way
would
to
send them to
maintain.
me
Remember
ahead
the
of
one
time.
we
Okay,
For
good.
review.
All right.
No,
Yeah,
they're side
yeah,
by side.
It's not
That's a
brand new.
6 foot.
It's a good idea.
Builds up to a
Thanks.
6 foot of the property line.
Well,
But that's because he owns them both, and he wants to make it look like a townhouse.
remember the one we had down at the campgrounds where they were gonna build it, but we said they couldn't trespass? Such a small-
Atlantic Ave.
That was the real issue there.
Still that haunts me. I was actually gonna discuss that later.
Okay,
The river was good.
heading into the home stretch. How you doing, Dave? Okay?
Wonderful. I never got
Stand of the sun. Okay. Night tomorrow, I don't know, we'll see.
all reflective, right? I mean, white
Get
sand.
another ECG treatment tomorrow. Usually I have a couple of days of adverse effects afterwards. And it's like more nuisance than anything. Every third month I get 3 consecutive treatments. 3 weeks, so every Thursday, but tomorrow's my appointment, so for the next 3 Thursdays I've got one.
out for a little while, or?
Mostly it makes you tired.
Did you play golf? Did you?
No, we went out, just sort of, again, nothing major, as long as I remember afterwards.
One time actually.
Really, after your 2 hours, need to drink. Last time I had forgotten.
No.
Then the next 2.
No, I don't,
Forget that again.
It's not that bad, it's not chemo or anything.
oh, I should've sent notes. No, you gotta go down Oak Street. And take a left.
Full strength causes tuberculosis.
Right.
But somehow they discovered 40 years ago in diluted strength, it's good for this kind of malaria.
Okay, because it's got 75 feet of frontage on,
Yeah, it's not the worst thing in the
oh,
world
you
by a
couldn't,
long shot.
I couldn't, yeah, I drove around quite a bit to figure it out.
Missus take good care of you while
Not,
And I'm getting paid, I'm 100% service-connected disabled due to Agent Orange from my time in Vietnam, so
That's the
the
most
government
kind of forget it. I
stays
first
open.
came in from,
paid me, hopefully we don't.
I first came in from 124.
Well, I don't get
And,
it.
and then I think, okay, and then I go back out, and then I spent 20 minutes down there trying to figure out where I was.
So it's no big deal.
Okay,
That will make you go back. All right, I guess good.
All right, case number 2023-30, Aaron T. and Deborah J. Gingrich, through their attorney, William Kroll, are the owners of the property located at 10 Aaron's Way, Assessors Map 60, parcel G7-8, and 185 Pleasant Lake, Assessors Map 60, parcel G1-2 in the RM district. The applicant seeks a variance from the applicable shape number requirements, 32518 pursuant to the Howard zoning bylaw, 32552, the MGL, chapter 48, section 10.
I don't believe there are any notices from the town that had any issues that I'm aware of. And voting to sign the case is gonna be Al Donahue, myself, Chris Murphy, David Ryer, and Kenneth Dixon. Before I ask the applicant to identify themselves and so forth, just wanna make one clarification. I had sent everybody out, a memo from town council, from Amy Kessler, and just want to point out that tonight's hearing on this case, this strictly has to do with the shape number situation and nothing to do with the frontage, okay? So, I mean, although I think Attorney Kroll will address frontage and so forth, and I did get an email back from today regarding clarifying the frontage, because I only found there's more frontage than I saw on the plot plan, okay? So I wasn't aware of all the frontage. So anyways, that being said, just want to point out that we're here for the shape number situation and not for the frontage. Okay. Ask the applicant, representative, to introduce themselves.
Thank you. I'm Attorney William Kroll from Harwich Port, and I have seated with me Aaron Gingras, one of the owners with his wife Deborah Gingras, of the lot in question. This property is located in Harwich Center, in between Oak Street and Route 124. And it's off of Aaron's Way. Not a coincidence, this is Aaron. It's his, as I understand it, his wife Deborah deferred to him on this one and said, okay, you can have Aaron's Way on this issue. So, they are seeking a variance from section 325-18 of the bylaw regarding the shape number, and the shape number is not supposed to exceed 22. And due to the unique shape of this lot, the shape factor is actually 26.32, according to Paul Sweetser, 26.39. It's on the plan, and I pointed that out in my email to Mr. Sullivan. For whatever it's worth, it's on your plan. This is the overgrown bog here, and there's some numbers below it. I have a magnifying glass if you need it, but those numbers say shape number 26.39. Okay. See where that is? I'm pointing
No, I
those-
don't.
Those little numbers.
Okay. Actually, it isn't.
The bottom
Right there.
line right there.
All right.
Shape.
That last number says 26.39. Right there. All right, and while I'm up and I have the plan here, also, and this is the frontage issue, is that we do have 150 feet of consecutive linear frontage on Aaron's Way. So when you start here at the southeast corner of the lot and you go along Aaron's Way, along the cul-de-sac, you see that just to the left of that, it says 150.00 parentheses frontage. And that's because the frontage runs from that point along the cul-de-sac up to where the driveway portion, it says driveway, where the lot then goes to the north. So we do have 150 feet from here to here on purpose. You add those numbers up and it adds up to exactly 150. So that's Mr. Sweetser doing his job as the engineer.
All right, thank you.
We don't need frontage off of Pleasant Lake Avenue. We just happen to have frontage.
Okay, wait, before you go,
Mhm.
is this the lot line, this line going down here?
Yes.
And then
Yes, goes all the way out to
and
124.
wanders around and then comes back?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm talking about this point
Mm-hmm.
to this point.
Yeah.
Right,
It
that's
says
your
150
150,
feet
right,
here.
but this
Yep.
whole thing
That's
here is the
whole
lot.
That's the lot.
Down here.
Perfect.
Folks have that? Okay, thank you. So if you're talking about unique shape under the statute, it's pretty unique. Find me another lot in Harwich that, or in the same neighborhood that looks like that, and has unique soil conditions in that it has upland, it has this large cranberry bog as part of the lot, wetland, et cetera. So we're asking for a variance just from the shape factor, not from frontage. We have 150 feet of frontage, we have 40,000 square feet of area. I had Mr. Sweetser place a dwelling on the lot to show that it will meet the current setbacks. He shows the building envelope there, and we're going to be 20 feet from our lot lines on all sides. And we can put a compliant septic system in there. So, without a variance from the shape factor, then the Gingrises have a hardship, a financial hardship, in that this whole lot would be unbuildable if they could not, if they don't get a variance from the shape factor. It's in the RM zone, and RM zone, you have to have 40,000 square feet. We have 57,537 square feet of upland, in addition to 66,950 square feet of bog. So it's a very large lot, but it has a small building envelope in that area where we placed the building. So to argue the points under the statute, under 48, Section 10, for variance to be granted, the board has to make a finding that there would be no, if you grant this variance, there would be no substantial detriment to the public good, and that the variance would not nullify or substantially derogate from the intent or purpose of the bylaw. Those are the requirements. And we meet all the setbacks, frontage and minimum lot size, except for the shape factor. And so our contention is that a variance would allow for the construction of a single-family residence in a residential zone. It's not like we're not in conformity with the zone. We're in a residential RM zone. So it'd be allowing one single-family residence to be built, which in our opinion would not constitute a substantial detriment to the public good to have another house on a very large lot in a residential zone. And it would not derogate from the intent or purpose of the bylaw, since the bylaw intends to have single-family residences in a residential zone. I'm reminding the board that in February, and I attached a copy of your prior decision in a very similar circumstance, case involving Mr. Gingras, February 23rd, 2022, had a very uniquely shaped lot on Oak Street, and I attached a copy of that decision and that plan to show you what the circumstances were in that case. And that was a variance from the shape factor. For similar reasoning, and in that decision, the voting in favor was Mr. Donahue, Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Armstrong, Mr. Ryer, and Mr. Beasley. Voted 5-0 in favor to grant that variance in a very similar situation. I also would point out that the shape factor, I talked to the former town planner, John Eidman, a couple of years ago about the shape factor. And as town planner, he said, Bill, I don't know why we have this. We need to get rid of this. He says, it doesn't make any sense to me. And it doesn't make any sense to me either. I think it's fairly weird myself. It's like, why can't you have a strangely shaped lot as long as you meet all of the requirements? Maybe it's kind of like you don't want to have a spiral staircase in the neighborhood because it's different. This is a different looking lot, and we hope that you see your way to granting a variance in this case. Thank you.
My pleasure. First of all, I notice you have your PMC shirt on. I volunteer and also ride in the PMC as well. I didn't ride this year, but
I volunteer.
you volunteer. Whereabouts, where do you volunteer out of? Which spot? Any particular spot on the weekend that you volunteer from?
Nixon State Park.
Okay.
I put in a big lawn there for all the tables and tents and everything else, and I go there every year and clean up the parking lot and everything else that Tom T-Bear asked me to do.
That's good. Well, thanks for volunteering for that, and both as a volunteer and as a writer. So regarding this shape factor, and you guys got, last week I sent out a letter to town council, because, shape factor of 22. I can get out my calculator and I can follow the math of this whole thing, but 22, 19, 24, I had no idea what this is all about. And I realized that a year or so ago, I had voted in favor of a similar type project. And I believe at that time, I had probably approved it because the house is situated with good setbacks, okay? And I just had no idea what the background was of shape factors and how we evaluate it, good or bad regarding that number. Our town building commissioner, he hasn't any background, he didn't know why we use shape factor. Amy, the town council, sent back an email, sent it all to everybody, that she basically stated, I can't find any case law about shape factor, so
Used to be you had to have circles.
why?
You had to have concentric circles, and then they morphed that. Said, no, that does not work anymore, we want to go to the shape factor. I don't know, but it,
So I don't know what 22 means, I don't know what 25 means, I wouldn't know what 19 means, as far as the overall calculation. I do understand when you do find, a lot on upland and be able to situate it with setbacks, that much I understand, okay? Now, the frontage that we're creating here on the cul-de-sac, you go down Aaron's Way, there is no cul-de-sac. It's a straight road going straight through and it goes, then it heads out. So the cul-de-sac is, I don't think there's a cul-de-sac
There
there.
is.
There is?
You went the wrong way.
Well, I drove around that thing quite a bit, all
Are
right?
you the one that picked up my wife on the way?
No,
That was you?
Let's rephrase that.
She said you were a gentleman.
Okay, good. Sorry, Chief.
all right, that's for another day,
right,
another discussion,
but that's a
When the meeting's
paper
over, you
road.
guys can talk.
That's a paper road.
That's a paper road.
Right. So even if it wasn't cut in, it still gives legal frontage.
Okay, so, no, I don't, not this, I just want to verify, but I went down
But
Aaron's
It
Way.
doesn't exist anyway.
That road does exist.
I know,
All
road-
the
no,
planning
road
board
exists.
And everything.
The road exists, I just didn't see any kind of a circle cul-de-sac on the road.
You had to go to the right instead of the left.
His house is the one.
Because that turns into Follows Road.
It's a dirt road.
I realize it's dirt road, sir.
It's a dirt road.
That follows it
Turned into Aaron's Way.
Excuse me, if you want to speak, you come to the podium.
when it's time.
Thank you. I'm just asking a question regarding, I couldn't find a cul-de-sac, okay? But it's on paper, okay?
It's on paper and it does exist on the ground and it has been approved. It's a part of an approved subdivision plan by the planning board.
Right, that was done in 2019, I think. Okay. Or 17.
It's all legal, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely, don't disagree whatsoever. All right. Okay. Do we have any questions?
Can the bog ever be built on?
I'm actually farming it.
I'm sorry?
I'm working it and farming it now. It's an active cranberry bog.
He's a cranberry farmer, Mr.
I own the
Wright.
bog on Oak Street across from Cranberry Valley Golf Course. I work that also.
Okay.
So that bog there, I work. I pick it every year, I take care of it every year.
And what about this one?
This
That's
Oh,
one
this is the
I
one you're
also
talking
work.
about?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
Because I
Those are
see the
separate
pump
bogs,
house is
right?
still there.
Yes, they are separate bogs. Yep.
But if you ever shut it down, I had thought I had seen someplace, there's a state statute that bogs are forever protected, they can't be
Yeah, I mean,
developed.
that's all wetland.
That's a
No.
fine line. Some people try to push it one way or the other. In my eyes, you should never be able to build on a bog. But technically, it depends on the soils.
Right, but it is wetlands, yes. Okay, thank you, that's all I have.
Anybody else? Okay.
I only had one question, I'm not sure if anybody can answer this, I think we probably can. What is the actual perimeter number? Because I tried to do the math, and I'm looking at this perimeter number where you showed us it was 26.39. That shows a perimeter of 1,029.05, but if that were the case, then the math doesn't work. Does anybody know what the perimeter number is?
I can give you Paul Schweitzer's phone number. And you can call him and ask him how he arrived at that, but
That be a no? Attorney Crowell, you can't.
I don't know how he arrived, that's why we have professionals. He knows how to do that. I don't know how he added, I don't know how he arrived at that figure, but he followed the formula that's in the bylaw. Tells you
I
how
know
to
the
do
for-
it,
I understand the
to
formula.
come out with the shape factor.
But you have to know the perimeter length in order to work that formula.
I'm relying on his professional opinion about that.
His calculation's right above the shape number, right? 1,029.05 perimeter.
What did you say about perimeter, John?
It's right above the shape number note.
Right, that's
His
1,029,
calculation. Yeah,
1029.
Right.
If you square that and divide it by the square footage, it's nowhere close to 22. It's 8.5%. But if you look at the drawing, one of the lot lines itself is 545 feet. There's another one that's 400 feet. So I'm suggesting it's way more than 1,000. I just want to know if because we're asking to approve something based on a formula, I thought we should maybe know the numbers.
Oh, I understand. I appreciate that.
I have to rely on his professional,
I'm not
Expertise.
making a call. I'm using a calculator, just so we're really clear.
right, but he says that's what it is, and then he plugs that formula in, and he comes out with 26.39. If it was below 22, we're good, anyway. Wouldn't need a variance. If it's 8.5,
Yeah, I'm with you on that. That's why I was asking the number.
From my review of it, strictly looking at the structure and its setbacks.
I'm speculating here, but I think that perimeter might just be the upland section.
probably. That's why he's got those dotted lines. The 90, that's a 100, just below that, 177.3.
The note was within that spot
I
there.
think that's where he's, Mr. Dixon, getting the perimeter from.
Okay? It doesn't work either necessarily, but so be it.
But the only thing we're dealing with here is the request for a variance from the applicable shape number requirement.
Correct.
Because I noticed the plan does have in the little box down here some info that would go to the structure, I guess. It shows building coverage, site coverage, and building height. So
Yes,
I assume, if you stamp the plan, I don't know, are we approving that?
if I may, I asked the building commissioner if he would give us a denial letter, referral letter, without having to submit all the building plans, building and elevation plans, based upon the footprint, which he can do in his judgment if he wants to, because it would be, it's a significant amount of money to have those plans drawn up, and then have you say no to the variance for the shape factor. So that he did agree to do that, based upon this footprint shown. So we can't really give you all the exact, Mr. Sweetser gave you as much as he could for setbacks for the footprint shown on that plan, yes.
Okay, that was just a
Yeah, yeah.
request for clarification, that's all.
I think if I'm stamping the plans tonight regarding this case, it's plans submitted for the variance on the shape factor, and we're not approving or blessing, anything else regarding the
Just that
future
footprint.
structure.
Just that footprint.
We're just doing the footprint. So we're approving the footprint tonight,
Well,
as well as the variance in the shape factor,
And-
correct?
Yes.
And we actually need to probably put in the motion, well, I don't think we need to. If you go, obviously, if you submit plans that are non-conforming regarding setback, then it's gonna be kicked back by the building.
Right.
building commissioner.
This is all designed to
Right.
meet all the setbacks, so
Right.
if you approve
So
the,
It's within the
the
setback.
Right, so
footprint
it's all-
shown
it's all
on
within
that
the
plan.
setbacks.
Yeah.
So we're approving the plans within the setbacks. If you submit something else to Jack me that's not within the setbacks, then
No
he-
way,
then
yeah.
it's,
He's gonna reject it.
right.
Now, the reason I raised it, because it looked like it was 112 foot high, but then I saw that's the average grade. There's a little footnote there, which I had missed on.
Yes, I looked at
glance,
that first, I
thought,
said,
whoa, wait a
wow.
minute, but it's the, that's the required height. I guess that's equal to 30 feet, I guess, and it's showing proposed under that requirement, so it's
Yep.
okay. Now that I looked at it, the footnote. So,
Excellent.
no
Okay.
problem.
I have a question with regard to the cul-de-sac. I did find that, by the way. It's number 9 and number 12. Does the house numbers are inside the cul-de-sac itself?
Yes. Number 9 is my sister's house, and the other house is 2 police officers.
Okay. My question is, number 10 is going to be located down inside that dirt road?
Cul-de-sac comes around,
Yeah.
there's a set of evergreens,
Yeah,
and the electric meter,
okay,
there's a 20-foot comes through,
okay,
and it goes out, and the house is gonna go,
right there, all right.
Yep.
Just out of curiosity, the property that's down in back that says posted on that dirt road, that's the pump house down there? I know. It looked like there may have been a pump house down there, but in any event, since you look rather
I don't think
confused,
there's a-
I don't think there is one.
there is a pump house down there, but I don't think there's a posted sign down below there, but there is
You come into it.
going down the other road,
Okay.
because there's a lot of traffic comes in and out of that road that we're
That
trying to.
road, the house number down there was like 200, this is my own information.
That's Follows Road,
Carlos Road, so the number was 280 something?
207 is my daughter's house, I think.
Okay, no, I was just curious about the,
There is a barn there.
yeah.
Yep,
Right,
that used
yeah.
to be mine, it's now my son-in-law's.
Okay. I was just curious, took a ride down there, wanted to know what I was looking at.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
No.
In that case, we'll open up the meeting to the public. Is there anybody here that wants to speak regarding this case? And if you could, just state who you are, and your address, and you could make the notes on the sheet
Yeah,
on the
absolutely.
podium.
My name's Daniel Hall. I live at 267 Long Pond Drive. My mother Linda Hall lives, well, it's 175 off Pleasant Lake Ave, which is on Follows Road, so.
I'm on 175. Hi, Mr. Kroll.
Hi.
I've been in the area for 50 years, and I've seen a lot. But go ahead.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so, we can start off with a little history lesson, as we seem to be doing that tonight. Everyone loves to say how long they've been in the town, and I grew up here. My father grew up here. My grandfather was fire chief. My great-grandfather was police chief. So there's a little history lesson. So it looks like he's trying to get a variance to combine these two lots. Is that what,
Actually, they're one lot now,
the one lot now?
and the variance is to get relief from the shape factor, which is now 22, a number which I will be, don't totally.
Yeah, that's
I understand
fine.
the math, but I don't, but basically, that's what we're here today, on shape factor.
Okay.
And the board's, in viewing that, the board is looking at the upland area and the fact that the structure would be situated within the required setbacks, so that it would not be, all the setbacks would be conforming.
Okay.
Okay.
Due to some setbacks, could like a brook or wetlands affect setbacks?
Not for
No,
zoning
not for
purposes,
zoning,
no.
no.
Not for zoning, okay.
It could be for conservation, because you can see there's, a wetland setback shown on the plan.
Yeah, and there is
Conservation.
there is actually like a brook back there also that feeds into the cranberry bog that,
Conservation would be taking a stab at that, should
Okay.
this come in front
Our
of them.
setbacks are from the lot lines.
That also feeds the Harwich Water Department, your town water. That feeds the town water also.
but,
That's gotta be looked at.
Okay,
so it was talked about a frontage on Pleasant Lake Ave. There is frontage there, but if you actually do you can look at it in Google Maps, I mean, that bog, if you're talking about any kind of frontage from Pleasant Lake Ave, you're almost pretty much trying to cut a driveway through the cranberry bog, if that ever comes into question. Now,
I would agree.
the cul-de-sac is essentially just another driveway for those other two houses. I mean, that was created by Aaron. I don't believe there's enough room there to build a house. I think it's just shoehorning another house in that I don't believe he meets the setbacks if everything's actually looked at properly. There is a pump house down there. There's a brook that needs to be looked at. There's wetlands that need to be looked at. I just don't see it.
And it is a working bog.
Yeah, that's the other thing. It's not overgrown. He is working it, which is perfectly fine. I love bogs. I love cranberries.
You gotta give a lot of consideration to nitrics that come off.
But that's for conservation. That's not,
Right, okay.
that's for conservation.
Right.
But it is a working bog. So there are going to be stipulations that the bog needs also. Is the house going to be too close to the bog for septic, So that's just some of the concerns that I had, that I wanted to have looked at and or noted. Thank you.
Okay, pleasure, thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that'd like to speak to this case? Okay. Hearing none, would like to have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of closing?
Aye.
I'd like to have entertained now a discussion by the board. So, here's, and I should have brought this up during the first part of our discussion of questions. So we have frontage, which has been shown on the 150 feet on Aaron's Way. But then their frontage is then goes into, not into the main part of the lot, but it is then up a driveway is the main situation getting to the house. So, and again, I understand shapes, I just want to discuss as far as, so we have a home properly situated in an upland area, proper setbacks and so forth. I don't know what the regulations or the view is when the frontage has a minimal depth in relationship to the upland portion of the property where the house is being situated. I'm not quite sure how to go with that regarding, so it has 150 feet of frontage, but then very quickly, the main portion, the upland portion of the property where the house is being situated, has I don't know, 15 feet as far as the width of the driveway.
20 feet.
20 feet. So we have a 20-foot area that then opens up to the 150-foot frontage. And in defining, I don't know what the definition of frontage is in relationship to the depth of a lot that's open to it. Do you follow what I'm saying? So we do have a portion of the lot has frontage on required frontage. Then there isn't 150 feet of direct sight of frontage to the structure.
Direct site.
Okay. All right, so, I mean,
Under the bylaw, the frontage is the boundary of a lot coinciding with the road, street, or way.
okay,
So
so,
it really doesn't have anything to do with the depth of the lot.
okay, that's my question,
Yeah,
okay,
it
so.
just have to do with road, street, or way as defined by the bylaw. Let's just see what road, street, or way
I'm
says.
just sure what I was talking about. Yeah, but again, just a little thing. So we get the 150 feet of frontage here, but then the lot, to get to the main portion here, is defined by a 20-foot driveway. So it's a 20-foot driveway that has frontage, essentially. It goes into 150.
Part of the lot.
Right, but I wasn't clear, well, I was just unclear as far as what that meant
Okay,
for
then-
frontage and depth, that's all.
Yeah, but then it talks about the definition road, street, or way, and it says a public way. Well, this is not, because it's not being maintained and used as a public way, I'm assuming. A way shown on plan heretofore approved and endorsed in accordance with the subdivision control law. We don't know if it was, do
was,
we?
yes.
It was? Okay, so they meet that
That cul-de-sac is
definition.
previously approved.
So as long as they've got the 150 from this point up to that point, I think they meet the frontage requirement. And the surveyor has certified that they meet the 150.
Okay, all right.
Is it possible to speak?
Well, we've closed the public hearing, so.
I know.
Well, we will, can we,
We can reopen it.
I'd like to have a motion to reopen the public.
I'll make the motion, reopen. Second
public All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, public section.
Hi, my name is David Waite. My wife and I live at 1 Lake Ave, abutting the property that you're talking about here. We have 133 feet of frontage on Pleasant Lake Ave. When we bought the house originally from Jimmy Marsline, the front house, we asked if we could build out back. And they said no, because that's a panhandle. You're panhandling a lot. You can't do that. So we were gonna end up having to take down, when we building out back to build our home, we were gonna have to take down the front house. And when we went to the meeting, the building inspector at that time said, "Dave, how old is your house?" And I said, 1790 to 1810. And he said, you're okay. You're gonna leave that house there and you can build out back. It's just one continuous piece of property. He's doing something, that to me is a panhandle lot. Why couldn't I do that? And I had 133 feet. You know, Aaron's done a lot of building there. He doesn't show you all the houses. If you've been down there, you've seen all the houses he built. Okay? He's built a lot of houses. Nice houses. Nothing wrong with that. We need houses. The people that owned the last house he sold, or his first house that he built in there, they're about to come before you probably, or if they haven't been already, to put an addition on. That addition is on his side where he's putting up that house. How do you think they feel? They're not going to be very happy. You know, I think once this house, if you're giving him permission to build, then I'm not a happy camper here. If you're giving him permission to join the lots, that's one thing. And we'll fight him at conservation and at building. I think he doesn't show the well on there. That's a small lot. Could have so much of a distance between the well and the septic and the wetlands. That is Coy's Brook. Something to think about. When we moved in, I put a platform for my kids so they could get down there and see by there. I was told by the commissioner, I think that guy over there, Griffin, I could not put that platform there, and my kids could not go near that brook because they couldn't play down there because of it being a wetland and going into the town reservoir. I was a little upset about that. I ended up getting a farm. I went over their head and went right to the DEQE and got permission to do what I've done there. And I actually cleaned my property. The bog was pickable on my side, not on Aaron's side. Aaron's side had trees this big in it. He came in, put cranberry box on my property, took pictures of them, went before the conservation and said he just needed permission to clean the bog. He just needed to clean the ditch. And it was an interperson that was in there, gave him permission. He made a bog. There was no bog there before. My bog was open. I had cranberries. He had trees. He's a good guy. He's a good builder. Nothing wrong with that. But he oversteps his bounds. And you really need to keep a little closer eye on him, I think. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, sir. Yes,
If I may, just very quickly, I believe back when Mr. Waite asked about the panhandle lot, Harwich didn't allow panhandle lots. Harwich does now, in the bylaw, allow panhandle lots. We now, we used to call a lot like this a dog leg, because it comes down and it gets its frontage off of the cul-de-sac. This is not unusual in subdivision control, but all you have to have for a driveway is a 16 by 16 tunnel, they call it, so that emergency access vehicles, fire trucks and ambulances can get from the cul-de-sac into the house. It's a 20-foot wide driveway, more than what's needed. So I agree with Mr. Ryer, we have frontage on a road shown on a subdivision plan approved by the planning board, and we meet the area requirements for a lot. You grant a variance for the shape factor, it's a buildable lot.
yeah, I'd like to,
One more thing, when a subdivision is done, usually there's a road in there, there is an actual circle, and I've done it in some rough ones, and they still have a circle, and it's done, and you can see it. That's a dirt road. There isn't a circle there. When you subdivide a piece of property, granted, it's on paper, but when you've actually done it, and he's built everything but one, don't you think there should have been something done about that? It's a dirt road. I mean, there's no boundary there, it's not laid out, it's not done there, it's on paper.
It's all bounded.
Not real. If you've been down there, you go look at it, it's not there. Dirt road. Excuse me.
no, thank you for your comments.
And if I may, that's up to the planning board and the building commissioner to enforce that if they want some more definition, but the bounds are all there, it's all shown on the plan, according to Mr. Gingras. So if the fire chief, the planning board, the building commissioner said, we want more definition to that turnaround, there's a house here already, right? Right, so that cul-de-sac provides frontage for, on the plan that says Gregory and Krista Plant.
Yep.
That provides frontage for that house that's there, that same cul-de-sac.
And the fire trucks have been around that in the last couple of years, ambulances, and it's in place. And it's all gravel, that whole Aaron's Way is gravel. I put over 300 yards of gravel in there.
So-
The road is gravel.
I don't think it's necessarily up to this board to do what the building commissioner or the planning board, what's in their jurisdiction to do, or the fire chief.
I don't disagree with the
Zoning.
fact, I don't disagree with that fact, personally, as a chair as well, but because we're here tonight to talk about the shape factor and the other situations are suffer discussion of the boards. Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, that's actually a pretty good point, was that the previous, I mean, one of your objectives are to maintain safety. And yeah, maybe a fire truck can get around that little dirt circle, but if a fire truck has to go into the property that he's talking about, can it get out? You know, I mean, yeah, maybe a fire truck can get around that little circle, which is, would be very tough. But if it had to go in and rescue people and put a fire out, can it even turn around? These are questions that need to be answered before you can decide this lot is buildable, wouldn't you think? So you say it's buildable, a house goes up there and someone dies because there's a fire. So the fire truck can't turn around. I mean,
Well, I would note, sir, this application was sent to the fire department, and they raised no concerns with it.
Right.
So, I understand you.
I'm just saying, like, there's certain things that really need to be, like,
Well, it went to the fire department, and they did not raise a concern, and they know more about fires than we do on this board, and the requirements.
I'm not talking about fires, I'm talking about safety. I'm talking about, is anyone taking measurements to make sure a fire truck can turn around if they had to actually go down to that house? I mean,
First of all, I understand your point, and I think it's a valid one, but before it comes, as you notice in the meeting, I have been indicating reports from various town departments when they might object to something and so forth. And we had no objections from highway, police, nor fire.
yeah,
They
I mean, there's a lot of things
they all
saying that,
got
you know,
that.
we all take everyone's, you know,
I-
professional opinions. It's all, you know, it's all kind of on paper, it's an opinion. You know, I don't see anyone sitting here saying, oh, yeah, I took that measurement, this is how I got it, you know. Mr. Dixon had that question. Well, I'm taking his professional opinion that this is correct. Well, I mean, I could say the sky's pink and it's blue. Well, that's my professional opinion. Yes, you ask questions, and there's no one here that can answer them. And we're gonna decide if the lot is buildable or not? That's just another thought. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna move to close the public hearing.
I would second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
You second it, Ken, right?
That's why you send the plan to everybody.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we're back to discussion.
Mr. Chair, if I could ask a question again.
Yes, go for it.
What's the actual question before us, or the request before us, as I understand it, is to approve something that doesn't meet this 22 number. Is that correct?
Correct.
Anything else? We're not
Nothing else.
discussing
Nothing
building
else.
sites, we're not discussing road width, we're discussing 22 or not 22. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right. It's up to the building commissioner, conservation, other departments in town, to raise any objections on any building plans and so forth that may go forward. We're here strictly for
22 or not 22?
22, yeah, go or no go.
Okay, so, Attorney Crowell, if we were to make this motion to approve, would you be willing to accept the condition that we get the perimeter number so we can actually work the math to indeed confirm? Again, you have great faith in this person. I don't know that person, but I think this board
That would require a continuance.
should be absolutely required as a condition of this approval.
May I respond? You closed
Yes,
the public.
yeah, go right ahead.
Responding to a question. Okay. Mr. Sweetser, who was our town surveyor for the town of Harwich, assistant town surveyor for many, many years, and has been in the business for probably now over 40 years, has stamped this plan and signed this plan with his seal, his signature, and he's certifying that that number and that perimeter number and that shape factor number are accurate. So I don't know what more confirmation I could give you than to say that he's already said this is accurate. And he's put his professional license on the line. So I don't see the need, with all due respect, I don't see the need for a continuance or a condition. It's right there. Everything's right there.
Maybe I'm missing it then, if you could What is that, tell me again what that perimeter number is? I must be missing it, because I'm not seeing a perimeter number
On the plan?
that this math equates to.
He says it's 1,029.05 perimeter. That's the number.
Okay? So let's work the math.
Well,
What's the number?
Again, with all due respect, I'm not an engineer. Mr. Dixon's not an engineer. I don't see the need for it. I can't tell you whether you're right in making that calculation or not.
Okay.
You can't tell me whether he's right or wrong. He's the one with the seal and the license.
Because I can't support this, being asked to make a math decision without understanding the math. I can support it if it's a condition of approval, but I cannot support it otherwise. That's my position.
So I don't know what I suppose Mr. Sweetser would have to show his calculation to come up with that number to satisfy
I think
Mr.
that's what
Dixon.
you're asking
That's
for, so
exactly-
maybe we'll
He's
want to
got it. It's just a matter of showing.
continue it and have Mr. Sweetser give us the calculations, how he arrived at it, so we can understand it.
As opposed to a continuation, I would suggest a condition, that you approve it, subject to the condition that Mr. Sweetser verify the calculation of the perimeter.
That was my suggestion.
A condition.
I don't know if we can do that.
No?
Because then, we're not here, we've approved the plan.
Right, he's gonna stamp the plans and everything,
We've-
that's
we've-
stuff
we've-
that kind of
We've
ongoing.
approved a plan, which then is to conditional, and it's up to then,
I'm not in that big of a fire.
if we wait, if it's, we would have to, I'm not comfortable doing a vote where we approve a shape factor
Square it, divide by 40,000.
without,
Where's 40,000?
and then have a condition that would go in front of the building commissioner to make a decision if it's a go or no-go. And this thing would be filed with the town clerk.
Wait. There's your square footage.
Well, he used.
Personally, myself, if,
40,000.
whether it's 26.9 or 23.2, I don't understand. I'm looking at it as access frontage, and do we have a structure that's within setbacks?
So we take these
The
numbers,
shape factor, I wouldn't know what,
take the numbers that are in the middle right here, the wetland setback, there's a line in the below, it's 40,121 and 102.9.
okay, you gotta walk me through here. Let's start at the frontage.
Right in the middle there.
Middle
Brian,
one.
if I could, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
If you do the math on that, it comes out to what he
I
says.
just say, Chris, you can explain it to him, but I'm gonna agree with Chris. If what's in that little setback, where you had to get your microphone or your micro glass out for, if you use those numbers,
Right.
the computation is exactly as he projected it was.
Right.
Now, I don't know why,
But where did he get those numbers?
well, there is a question of what he used for square footage.
Well, yeah,
Does it really make any difference, though? If they don't make the number.
They don't make the number.
26, they don't meet the number, so whether their number is 19 or 18 or 4.
They wouldn't have come here if their
they
number
don't
was
meet it.
below 19.
To me, the issue is, can they build within the setbacks? And they can.
That's not what we're talking about today.
Oh, I know, but I mean, what difference does a number make as long as if we approve it, they can build a house within the setbacks? So they don't need further relief.
I guess my question though, they wouldn't have come here if it was below 22.
Correct.
Once it's above 22, what does it matter?
if it was above 22 and they didn't meet the setbacks where the house is gonna be positioned, then obviously I wouldn't find it favorable.
Yeah, but I'm just
Well,
talking,
the house would
in
have to
regards
be
to
small,
the
it would have to be a
request tonight
townhouse.
is to, you know, grant a variance as to the shape number. And again, I don't think they would have gone through this trouble if the calculation went the other way. And once they've done the calculation and it's above,
That would make sense.
you know.
I mean,
What does the number matter? The question is any number above 22 okay with this board?
Correct.
That's really the question.
The number doesn't matter.
The number doesn't matter.
and for me, since I don't understand the 22, where that came up from in the first place,
Right.
I don't know how to make a,
Yeah, but what
I
I'm saying
don't-
is
that's
if it
why I
was below
contacted the
22, we
attorney.
wouldn't be here, right?
that's why I
So-
contacted the attorney. Why the 22?
Yeah.
To get background information as to how you make a decision on 22.5 or 26.9 or whatever. But the number itself, to me, I don't know why they came up with that number, given a certain shape.
Why they have 22 as a requirement?
I have no idea.
Well,
And
they-
and
I
neither does the
think
town
The attorney
council.
in what you sent today said that it's in order to make tight lots, so you didn't have these long sinuous lot. So to make them tight and compact and get them in, that was what they
Right, I mean,
they
there's-
proposed.
From my research, there are 7 standard shapes of lots that are just, 7 standard shapes. This isn't one of them. This is more like
I
a,
agree.
this is more like a political, gerrymandered lot for votes, okay?
But the town didn't want that, but now we have approved, a process to approve panhandle lots. So I think the shape factor is like an ancient thing that's part of the bylaw and probably ought to be knocked out
Yeah,
whenever they get
actually,
around to
Dave,
revising
I
it.
think the shape factor was added with the same article adjustment that the panhandle was approved.
Really?
Yeah, if you look at the dates, on the definition, they were both added in May
John,
7th. Well, I'm looking at the definitions.
Yeah,
Both definitions were added May 7th, 2013. Shape number and lot panhandle.
When you amended, yeah, okay. It
In the
was
very-
amended, yeah, I
in the
see it,
very
5/7/2013,
Yeah.
yeah.
If you look in the definitions.
Well, it was amended, the shape factor was amended and they added the panhandle.
I think they went from the circle requirement, the
predates
concentric
that.
circles, to the shape factor.
When were these lots, when was the subdivision approved?
It was in
The planning board had to have approved
it's
it,
in
right?
2019.
No,
2000, no, it goes back.
the original was at least 15 years ago, the original when I went to the planning board.
Well, maybe the original, but the latest one, I thought was, okay, maybe I'm wrong, okay, I apologize.
2019 was the one on Oak Street.
Oh. Well, this is, Aaron Way is off of Oak Street.
Correct. Yes, it is. Aaron's Way is.
Aaron's Way is off of Oak Street.
No, it's not.
Oh, that's foul, sorry.
Aaron's Way is off of Oak Street, and the Oak Street development, when I checked with planning board, was that was approved in 2019, which I thought created Aaron's Way and the frontage that we're looking at here this evening.
No.
Regardless of when it was approved,
I
it was
understand.
approved by the planning board.
And this was approved as a buildable lot.
No. No, just approved as a lot on that. The plan was approved. For the
It
subdivision
showed
plan,
Aaron's Way on the plan,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And then Aaron subdivided, the one that's shown as Gregory Plant, that gets its frontage off of that cul-de-sac. That's how they get a building permit. He's now saying, I have 150 feet of frontage for this lot, and I have 40,000 square feet of area. I don't meet the shape number, so I need a variance from the shape number to build on this lot.
So was it subdivided before the shape number came into effect? Or was it subdivided after the shape number came into effect?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Because if it was after the shape number, it's a self-created hardship. This person who subdivided it.
I don't know the answer to that question.
And we don't know when the shape number came into effect.
Well, it looks, yeah, because it,
That was
that might have been a modification, could have been
It
a
is.
grammatical change.
It says an amendment,
It
yeah.
might, they might have just changed a grammatical error or something, right? We don't know.
So where are we, Mr. Chairman? We gotta move forward here. Time is passing.
I
well,
don't know if these gentlemen were satisfied with Mr. Sweets' calculation. It sounded like they were.
I don't think the calculation really matters. I mean, as John pointed out, it's,
Okay, one thing we haven't discussed here tonight was, and I'm sorry we're past 10 o'clock already, but, was the hardship factor here, okay? Just wanted to just clarify if it could, and I realize it's, so, a subdivision plan was submitted to the planning board, and they approved the subdivision, correct, at some particular point. I thought it was 19, you mentioned you thought it was earlier than that, okay? At that point, you had several acres of land that you laid out a subdivision plan and lots for that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, at that point, what you're saying here is the hardship is that not being able to create an additional lot as opposed to increasing the value of the other lots that you're in that subdivision so that, because I know I think you put an appraised value, it's a value of $20,000 as far as in the lot, at least from the town, or you've got some sort of investment value of that lot, of what, $15,000 or $20,000?
No, that lot's been taxed since I've had it as a building lot. It's assessed at 100 and.
I don't believe so.
It is.
At least, when I looked it up, on the land there, I didn't see it taxed at $150,000 for a lot.
68,000. I can produce the tax bill,
Because
that's
it's
easy
not a
enough.
building lot yet.
Right.
So we
But
give
it
them a
was
variance.
taxed as one. It's been taxed as one all along.
The town has to assume every lot is buildable until proven otherwise, so they tax everything as a buildable lot. Unless you seek
I
an
think the
abatement.
hardship is, without a variance, it's not buildable. They can't build on it.
Right, but the lot could have been incorporated with the other land in that subdivision as well, being the fact it was Jeremy. I mean, just throwing that out. And subdivision was created, and the hardship is squeezing out an additional lot.
Well, they've got the lot. They've got the lot, they just can't do anything with it except farm until they get a variance.
I just gotta find one document. I apologize, and I should have had it pulled out in front of me already. Okay. No, I don't have it. Thought I did. Excuse me? I am. No. I thought I pulled a property card for it. I guess I didn't. Well, I think technically, we have the frontage. We've got a building structure site has proper setbacks. And I'm personally ready to go forward. Anybody else have any more discussion? Okay. Before the vote and so forth, I'll entertain a motion. Okay, I did a write-up on this. Grounds variance is the fact that it's a, you want me to read, I did something out, if you want me to read it as a motion?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. All right, so, I'm gonna make a motion here. Case number 2023-30, Aaron T. and Deborah J. Gingras, and I apologize, am I pronouncing that correctly?
That's fine.
Okay. Care of William D. Kroll, Esquire, 466 Route 28, Harwichport, Mass. 02646, owner of the property located at 10 Aaron's Way, Assessors Map 60, parcel G7-8, and 185 Pleasant Lake Avenue. Assessors Map 60, parcel G12, in the RM District. The applicant has been granted a variance from applicable shape number requirements in section 325-18 pursuant to the Harwich zoning bylaws, 5325-52, and MGL Chapter 40A, Section 10. I have that bylaw correct?
Yeah, let me just, what's 52? That
325-52.
doesn't strike a chord.
325-18.
325-18, and you've got,
325-52 is variances.
in the, I'm just going by the,
Okay,
The
that's a
application.
general variances.
Right.
Board has
Right.
the power to decide.
so
application.
325-52, and MGL, Sections 48, Section 10.
That's okay.
As a failure of the board to make this grant will result in a substantial hardship to the applicant. The board further finds that the condition is specific to this property and does not generally affect the entire district. There will be no substantial detriment to the public good by granting of this variance, and that its granting will not nullify or substantially derogate the intent or purpose of the bylaw. All work shall be performed.
No, we do not have any work.
That's right, that's
all you
right.
need. That's the
That's
end of the
right.
motion.
That's
We don't
right.
need any conditions
Yeah.
either.
Okay, so we're actually going right to the violation, terms and conditions of this special permit, this variance may be enforced in violation of the Howard zoning bylaw pursuant to GL 40A, Section 7, and the Howard zoning bylaw as these may be amended from time to time. And we have no further conditions to put on this, correct? Okay.
I'll second the motion.
First of all, any additional discussion by the board?
I'm just gonna go on record as, because you, John, you basically convinced me that 22 is an arbitrary number, and use chair, we don't know where it came from or why it's there. I no longer
Nobody
hold
does.
the same objection that I had about not knowing the numbers. That, and Chris, you gave me numbers that worked. Why he picked those numbers, I don't know. He should have picked numbers that worked. But, that said, I'm just gonna go on record saying that's why I'm feeling differently now.
Okay, and we have a second? You seconded, Dave? Okay. Okay, reminder, voting this motion is Al, myself, Chris, Dave, and Ken. All those in favor? Aye, motion is approved.
Thank you very much for all your time and
You're
attention.
welcome.
Very close.
And I know you'd say, if I walked out with that pen, you'd say, typical lawyer. Thank you for loaning me the pen.
Thank you for returning it.
All right.
Thank you
Hard to
very much.
predict, these
night.
meetings are hard to predict, the length of these meetings.
They
aren't
are.
I was guessing a shorter one myself.
Your fault.
David, really, I'm just curious, where I was looking, it says added, but you said amended. Where I was looking in the front here, so the shape number, says it was added on that date.
Okay, I was looking at, but where's that?
At the very front of the,
32518.
under the definitions, where it defines shape number?
325.
Definitions.
No, just
John's right in front.
Just right in the front, where the definitions are.
Definitions.
First couple pages. Define shape number in the definition. It says it was added.
Yeah, but 325, they simply amended it,
Yeah.
talking about the shape. I bet you it was
Maybe they
never,
added it and then amended it later, or,
it was probably never defined.
yeah. Because it's the same coincidentally as when you go to the definition of lot panhandle. There's the
Sorry, I
same
did
note.
not know there was a separate definition. I was just going by 32518.
So it seems like it was done at the same time, which is odd, 'cause
One more area of confusion in the code.
Okay, I don't, some cases, sometimes I don't feel good about. Okay. And all right, we have minutes approved from both the August 30th and July meetings. Dave, thank you very much for all the effort you put into, I think, on
You're welcome.
of going through the July, was it the July meeting you took care of? Which one did you do the adjustments to, or was it the August?
Unless anybody's got any changes, I've got to move that we approve the minutes from the July 26, 2023 meeting and the minutes from the 8/30/2023 meeting as submitted to us by our secretary.
Second, John, motion?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, Assistant Chair, I appreciate it. Earlier, I had Ken taking over. I don't know, you guys are planning something, I don't know what the hell's going on here, but
He just practicing, you gotta keep an eye on him. this guy.
I'd like to call this meeting.
okay. Now, where were you all enthusiastic people, where were you when you're voting for a chair?
Now, our pension checks
Yeah.
are gonna
Be sitting out of hands, I believe.
I think so. All right.
I missed that meeting.
New business. So, why do we meet at 7 o'clock?
Well, the sun sets now a little earlier, if you want to eat a little bit earlier.
All right, we're coming up to next calendar year, 2024, and that has to be set, so if the meeting this year was 7 o'clock, we're the only board that kicks off a meeting this late. And the planning does 6:30, and I know that it can be a habit, people, it's, so, because, we meet at 7 because.
7 o'clock fits right in exactly for 3 hours with 10 PM.
Well, I don't know whether or not, obviously, we're now at 10:22, but the question here is that, and we're not gonna vote tonight on this, I just wanna raise this up and think about, why we can't, what are the pros and cons of following what other boards do, particularly those who meet at 6:30, and kick the meetings off at 6:30.
I imagine some of it, people who are coming petitioning probably have things to, day jobs.
Yeah, well, what about
And a lot of people here have day jobs.
But they're also appearing in front of the planning board, and they're appearing in front of the Conservation Commission, and those people are kicking things off at 6 and 6:30.
I'd be on 6:30.
I just want you to think, we're not gonna vote tonight. I just wanna throw it out there for some consideration, because we have to make that decision. If we're gonna adjust the starting time, it has to be done before we have to post a calendar, at which it's approved from probably in the December meeting. So-
6:30 would work for me, but 6 would be difficult.
Yeah, no, I just throwing,
6:30 would be great.
I can do 6:30.
I'm fine with 6:30.
all right, so,
In fact, John, with your visit,
Last thing is, our check-in window's till 6. That's why I say to be here at 6. We get people that come in, but 6:30 I can do.
all right, so we're not doing tonight, by the way, Tim Bailey's not here today's meeting, because his grandfather got started off in in hospice. And so he's spending time with his grandfather. Okay, so if you have an opportunity to reach out to Tim and wish him the best on his family situation, that'd be great. I was gonna get into another discussion tonight, which I'll wait for the next meeting. And- Okay? And
Oh, Jesus. Wow.
It's still today, it's not midnight yet, we could
You know,
continue.
but I'll just give you just for thought and think about things, and I started alluded to it tonight in discussion regarding the deck, when we talked about Pilgrim. Because a structure is done at this height, why does it automatically mean that now you can go up 2 stories? Okay? And I think, like, for instance, even like, and it's not think these things through a little bit more. And I realized, Attorney Crowe brought up the Gale case today regarding taking the building out a little bit. That's fine. But, had alluded to the fact that you could go all the way to the 0.6 feet, from the sideline. And I don't necessarily believe, and whether or not, I'd go back and look at Gale, and again, I'd like to discuss this next month, but I just want you to think about it, because someone might have had an approved deck that went out 3 feet, or they thought, yeah, fine, you can put the deck there, 3 feet from the house. Does that mean now, a few years later, you can go up 30 feet? Because if the deck got approved 3 feet closer to the sideline, now, if we look at it, are we using that as a foundation of going up 30 feet?
Can the building commission make that decision then?
If it's non-conforming lot, no, he's gotta come in front of us. Oh, can the building commission make a decision on a deck?
On the deck?
Yeah, he could have decided that, who knows? It's only a deck, yeah, I'll approve it, you don't need to go in front of the board for that. I'm thinking back on Atlantic Avenue, they had a deck back there, so we went up 30 feet. I don't know. I don't think Gail was talking about what's reasonable. Now, then at that point, we could have said, is doing that a problem with the neighborhood and all that kind of stuff? I realize that comes into play. But we so much, I think, look at these, sometimes decks, and we look at it black and white in the law, well, yeah, since it's there, then you can go up. I'm not comfortable always on
Well, I think you have to look
hitting
and
the
see
skyline.
why the deck was there in the first place.
Right, and that's why I brought that tonight up, and
This deck, we don't have any paperwork on how it got there.
Right.
It's probably an illegal deck,
Over 10 years old.
but it's 10 years, so there's nothing you can do about it.
Now it's
Right.
legal. Yeah.
But that's legal, it doesn't necessarily mean, and Attorney Crowe brought up the situation tonight, that let's pretend it's all still sand and dirt, per Gale, can we intensify the side of the house a little bit? You know what? He had a good point. So,
Well,
that,
most of the time, that's gonna be the case.
I think,
The deck or whatever it is
Right.
gonna be based on an existing nonconformity.
but again, I wanna look at, how the deck get there? Okay?
This
And
deck
then-
they just built, somebody
right.
just built it.
And then, as far as going up, I don't necessarily, Gail is saying the fact, and again, you have to go into and I'll stop it, I just want you to think about this, I'm gonna bring it up next month, get in discussion.
I think the
Because-
structure already has to be, the structure has to be the nonconformity in order for it to get kicked to us, right? So if someone had
Correct.
a house that was conforming
Doesn't get kicked off.
and the deck was within the thing. it's
Doesn't
not gonna
matter,
get
they can go up
kicked to
30,
us.
they can go up,
So you're only, I think it's always gonna sort of default to what Attorney Crowell brought up today.
I mean, we approved one down on Snow Road Inn, Snow Inn Road. They went up from a concrete block patio.
well,
And now that, I think, was within the boundaries, but that went up. So if that was a Gale case, meaning it was closer to the boundary, would that have been allowed in your mind?
I don't know, I think, going from, first of
this
all,
case, it was
first of all,
20 feet in front of
a patio block on the ground is allowed right up to the sideline. You can go right, there's no setback for a patio.
So it can't be.
It's once you put a structure and you're going above grade, now it becomes a structure. If it's on a non-conforming lot and you're gonna be under 4 feet, the deck can be half the distance to the setback. Above that, it can't be. Now that gets into Gale, whatever.
Half the distance to the setback.
Yeah, on a non-conforming, if it's under 4 feet, if it's non-conforming lot, and it's under 4 feet, you can go half the distance to the setback,
For a deck.
okay? That's allowed. Above 4 feet, it's not.
You can actually do that on a conforming lot too. Go within half the distance of the setback if it's under 4 feet.
If it's under 4 feet, that's right, it is non-conforming as well.
Yeah.
All right, so that's allowed. It's just that these people that have, I just want to, I want you to think about it, further discussion, that have these, all of a sudden, this deck, and they're saying, well, I got a deck here, so I can, go all the way up. I don't know. I'm just not,
Compare with more information, because from my viewpoint, that's allowed. Doesn't matter how high it is, it can go up to the height, as long as it doesn't create if it doesn't create a new non-conformance, it's allowed. There's no halfway to that non-conformance, it's either yes or no.
but again, in some situations, how did the deck get there in the first place?
Different story.
All right? And second, because a simple structure is approved on the side of the house, for whatever reason, does that mean I have no problem with the guy then wanting to go further, make it a longer deck, great, I'm just having concerns on taking that as a reason for creating a lot of more habitable space going up to 30 feet. And I'm just taking a second look and wondering, really? Okay, we have a simple setback intrusion, and now we're gonna go all the way up. And I just wanted to discuss that. I realize like tonight, and I agree with Attorney Kroll, when he brought up the fact of if it could all be dirt, would it still qualify in the Gale case, and he was absolutely right. But saying the fact that now you can expand the house to the 0.6 feet to the lot line because that deck happened to be there, that's a bridge too far.
I think in this case, if the house was within the setback, if it was 22 feet,
Right.
and we had the exact same facts except for that, where the deck was gonna say we'd have to get an opinion of counsel, because now you've got an illegal deck that he's trying to claim as a non-conformity to go up. And I think that's something that town council will have to weigh in on, because that's not clear at all.
So after 10 years, it's still an illegal deck?
Well, this deck was over 4 feet.
If
This
it's over
was
10
a higher
years,
deck.
I'm talking about age, you said an illegal deck. If it's over 10 years old, we don't have any authority, do we?
We can't tell them to tear it down, but it doesn't mean
We
that.
can't make them tear it down, but it doesn't necessarily mean they can use it to justify,
Can't be a
to
precedent.
create a nonconformity. I'm not sure because it's not legal. And I had the statute, but it disappeared. I don't know.
This
where
one.
I'm
But the
looking at.
fact that the house was non-conforming,
Right. And
Yeah,
that was
overall.
permitted, so,
Yeah.
yes,
It
that's
seems to
what
me
he,
that the vast majority, the question's gonna start with that, right? Is the house conforming or not?
right.
And then you're gonna kind of work down and say, all right, well, how's the deck? So I agree with Dave. I think if the house was conforming, the deck would be a bigger question.
yeah.
If the house is
That's what
already
you're
not
positing,
conforming,
really.
Right, yeah.
if,
Now, if the house were conforming, the deck was not conforming, but it was approved,
Right.
then
Well,
you can
Again,
go up, you can go up, you can go up.
But not, but again, let's say the deck was approved. The idea back then was, we got a retaining wall, you got 15 feet of dirt and rock, yeah, cover it over. I mean, someone could have easily have said that.
To get it approved.
Right.
although we are not bound, the town council has already said that, by wrong decisions.
No, we're not.
Correct.
So if the building commissioner, whoever, and we've been through, any number of those since I've been here.
Even if it was a wrong decision 2 decades ago?
Well,
More than 10
Yeah,
years?
no, we're not
Look at-
bounded. We're not bound by
I
any.
misplaced it tonight, but look at 40 MGL Section 7. And it talks about violations and when one rule is 6 years, another one is 10 years. And I don't have it in front of me, so I can't really tell you. I've got to look at the actual words. I read it tonight quickly. But that's what you have to look at. That's what sets the standard for this kind of illegal, if you, it's not really illegal, but non-permitted structure. So why don't we all look at that and we'll talk about it next time.
Yeah, what's that number again? 40.
I'll second that
Section
motion.
7, 40
5B,
NGL,
Section
Section 7.
7.
So the state has already weighed in on this.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Okay, I'd like to have a motion to adjourn.
Is anybody else going to the open meeting training tomorrow before we adjourn?
I'm there at 2 o'clock. Who else is there?
I'm there. Who else? No,
Okay.
I'm not.
All right.
Motion to adjourn. Somebody second that?
Second.
All in favor?
Okay, who made the motion to adjourn?
You did, I seconded.
John? Chris.
Unanimous vote.